2, 1.
Hello, and thank you for joining the May Economic Development and Industrial Corporation of Boston Board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is continuing to host public meetings in a virtual setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. I will now take the roll call to begin this meeting. Mr. Monahan.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
And I, Priscilla Rojas, am present. Okay, let's start with the EDIC agenda item number 1. Request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the April 13, 2023 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 2. Request authorization to enter into a license agreement with 22 Dry Dock LLC, a joint venture between Related Beal, Boston Real Estate Inclusion Fund, and Kavanaugh Advisory Group, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, to conduct pre-development activities at 20 and 22 Dry Dock Avenue within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. On April 14, 2022, the BPDA Board of Directors awarded 22 Dry Dock LLC as redeveloper of 20 and 22 Dry Dock Ave in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park, and authorized a license agreement for pre-development activities on the site. The license agreement for pre-development activities expired on December 31st, 2022. In order to complete the remaining permitting, demolition, and construction preparation items, 22 Dry Dock LLC has requested a new license agreement to continue this activity. Staff is recommending that the BPDA enter into a license agreement with 22 Dry Dock LLC to allow them to continue pre-development activities on the site. The license will commence immediately and expire on December 31st, 2023. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to execute a contract amendment for additional dry dock pump maintenance services provided by Williamson Electrical Company Incorporated in the amount of $13,325.65. Laura.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board, for the opportunity to speak with you today. In September of 2020, this board authorized the award of a contract to Williamson for dry dock pump maintenance services at dry dock number 4. As you may recall, this dry dock has been deactivated and it requires pumps to keep the water level low, and so the caisson remains sealed. In the course of their routine maintenance visits, which include inspection and disassembly of the pumps, William found that the diffuser needs to be replaced with a total cost that exceeds the contract allowance for materials. This amendment would increase the total contract value by approximately 8%, and the specifications have been reviewed by BPDA staff and engineers and determined to be reasonable. Therefore, it's in the BPDA's best interest to amend this contract in order to maintain this asset. I will note that this contract expires towards the end of this year, so we will come to you to re-procure these services in the near future. With that, thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, finance Q3 update. Michelle.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Bohemus, Chief Jemison. I am Michelle Goldberg, the Director of Finance of the BPDA. I am here today to present our third quarter finance update. This will not require a vote, and I am happy to take questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Next slide, please. As is our current practice, I will start with equitable procurement, which is celebrating its 2-year anniversary. The plan requires that the Director of Finance, who is also the Chief Procurement Officer, to provide quarterly updates to the board on the progress of the equitable procurement efforts, in addition to our financial updates. Next slide, please. The equitable procurement plan has 5 key elements, all designed to break down barriers standing between small businesses and BPDA contracts. The BPDA began implementing this plan immediately upon its passage in 2021, and we have made great progress in all 5 areas. Tonight, we will focus in on Area 2, community outreach. Next slide, please. But before we do that, let's focus in on our spend. We continue to refine our data collection and reporting tools. I would like folks to note that at the time of our 2020 disparity study, we had only spent over a 5-year period $800,000 with minority-owned firms. Today, that number is $2.4 million. This is encouraging performance, and we are looking forward to exploring opportunities to continue to open up our marketplace to more providers. Next slide, please. Some key updates on our outreach efforts. From a general perspective, in the last 90 days, we have released 13 procurements. Our supplier diversity specialist, Robert Springer, has reached out to 593 unique providers for these 13 projects, primarily off the state contract list, but we are also collecting contacts of our own. Robert is building relationships with business owners, and we are seeing more plan holders and more bidders come to the table. Thank you, Robert, for all your work on that. Next slide, please. Tonight, I'd like to take the opportunity to share the results of our technical assistance project that we did with City of Boston staff, In Order Consulting, and Calyptus Group. With this project, we sought to better understand what the technical assistance marketplace looked like, specifically when it comes to government contracting, and how the BPDA, in coordination with the city, could add value with targeted programming. Next slide, please. We asked In Order and Calyptus to take 3 key perspectives in this project. We surveyed organizations that provide technical assistance to small businesses. It was clear that we were able to confirm there's not a lot of focus on government contracting, and providers struggle to track outcomes. You can see on the right side of this table, we have a lot of specific recommendations that we can look into in an effort to fill these gaps. Next slide, please. Secondly, we surveyed over 1,400 small minority-owned businesses in the region to see what type of technical assistance they're currently using and what they felt they needed. Technical assistance came in third to struggling to know when opportunities are actually emerging, so time, the barrier of time, and consistent networking environments to build relationships. We thank our consultants for helping us hear from the community that we're seeking to serve, and this will absolutely inform our direction going forward. Next slide, please. The third place we looked were to our peers, and In Order and Calyptus did benchmarking to look across the country to identify best practices. These examples show that there are countless ways to make an impact. As we look to the future of this agency and to the future of the City of Boston, we are very excited to lead the conversation in providing targeted support to disadvantaged businesses that are seeking government contracts. Next slide, please. All of these recommendations will help us build our supplier diversity functions. We have been reviewing these recommendations and will be implementing several of these in partnership with the city. When I return in June for our FY24 budget, I will share which recommendations we will be taking action on first. Now for our finance update. Next slide, please. And you can skip to the next one too. Fiscal year 23 started on July 1, 2022. The trends we are seeing remain favorable for the BPDA. This table I am showing here is our effort to try out something new, so bear with me. The first column is our FY23 third quarter budget. We expected to collect about $60 million by this point in the year. You can see we also intended to spend about $60 million. The revenue is generally on budget, but we have only spent $51 million. The 2 key reasons that spending appears slow are our 2 favorite items, Building 108 and the intercompany grant. We are very pleased that the Building 108 demolition and remediation is wrapping up, and spending came in below budget on that project. That's quite an accomplishment, given that this took place throughout the pandemic. Accounting practices, however, shifted in between when our budget was put together and the FY22 accounting was finalized. Our auditors made a determination that we would recognize the entire cost of the project in FY22. We budgeted for that this year, and we also budgeted $4 million of an intercompany grant to go from EDIC to BRA to pay for that. So in this third column here, we attempted to back out those two items so that you can see the performance of the general business is much closer to the budgeted amount. Next slide, please. So when we put it all together and project for the end of the year, the BPDA's finances are performing favorably. The first two columns are last year's budget and last year's actuals. So if you look in that property management and debt service category, you'll see last year we budgeted $17 million. That was for building 108, and we spent about $16 million. You can see, let's see here, sorry. Last year's surpluses were moved into the capital reserve fund. We are projecting surpluses this year, and whatever is remaining will probably also be moved into that fund. Next slide, please. Here is a new view of our capital portfolio. It is extraordinary to see the amount of work that this small but mighty team is undertaking. Thank you to everybody in the real estate department for all your hard work. These 4 bar charts express the capital projects by fiscal year, by size, location, and type. We are thrilled to see our spending increase this fiscal year. It means we are delivering on our promise to be the shepherds of critical public infrastructure. Thank you, real estate and finance, and everyone else who is making this happen. With that, I don't think we have any more slides. Is there one more, Colin? I don't think so. I'm happy to take any questions you have. This concludes my update. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? No, so yeah, once again, it's really exciting to see how this presentation, evolves each quarter. Definitely really excited to see how what you've taken with the supplier diversity, initiative that was rolled out, several years ago, and to see it kind of all, fully coming to fruition and working is just a great testament to you and your team. And I see a lot of supplier diversity stuff, so you're really doing a best-in-class job. This is commendable.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, with that, I think a motion is in order.
So moved.
There's no vote required.
Oh, wow. Okay. Of course.
Thank you, though.
I always forget. Okay. Item number 5, personnel. Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Jemison. We have a number of items for your consideration on the EDIC agenda with exact details that have been included in the board memos. We have 9 appointments. In the planning department, Abdul Razak Zakaria, Planner 1, Catherine Neal, Senior Planner 2. In the finance department, Halsey Hughes, Supplier Diversity Data Analyst, and Mario Morris, Procurement Specialist. In the Director's Office, Zachary Gagny, Urban Renewal Data Management Associate of Development Review. In the Urban Design Department, Seth Reisman, Deputy Director of Design Review. In the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, Annie Asuncion, Language Access Coordinator. In the Office of Workforce Development, Leslie Bala, Case Manager. Brooke Machado, Senior Program Manager, Adult Education. We also have one internship kind of co-op in the Office of General Counsel, Adrian Villavendo. We also have 2 status changes in the Planning Department, Kathleen Onifer from Deputy Director of Downtown Neighborhood Planning to Interim Deputy Director of Regulatory and Zoning Planning. In the Office of Workforce Development, Joseph Lee from Assistant Director of Talent Acquisition and Payroll to Interim Chief of Staff Worker Empowerment Cabinet. We have 4 out-of-state travel requests. And finally, we have 3 departures. In the Real Estate Department, Neil McBride, Master Electrician. In the Director's Office, Audrey Seraphin, Spark Boston Director. And in the Office of Workforce Development, Nathalie Jean, Deputy Director, Special Projects and Budget Management. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Okay, well, that was a really long list, so great job recruiting.
Thanks.
All right, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lance Mark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Yeah, congratulations and welcome, everyone. To the BPDA. Okay, let's see, that was the last item on the agenda. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Roll call for a vote, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lance Mark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes, meeting adjourned. So we'll move over to the BPDA portion of the meeting. Thank you for joining the May Boston Redevelopment Authority Board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is continuing to host public meetings in a virtual setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 22, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It's also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. So I'll now take a roll call to begin this meeting. Mr. Monahan.
Present.
Dr. Lance Mark.
Present.
And I, Priscilla Rojas, present. Okay. Second, just gotta scroll up a little bit here. Okay, so item number 1, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the April 13th, 2023 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lance Mark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on June 15, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the 55 Summer Street project as a development impact project. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lance Mark?
Aye.
Mr. votes aye, motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on June 15th, 2023 at 5:50 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the proposed development plan for planned development area number 142, 155 North Beacon Street in Allston, Brighton, and to consider the 155 North Beacon Street project as a development impact project. Motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lance Mark?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 4, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on June 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the 22 Dry Dock Ave project as a development impact project. Motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lance Mark?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay. Item number 5, request authorization to adopt Plan Mattapan, which will guide the Boston Redevelopment Authority, doing business as the Boston Planning and Development Agency, and the community on the future development, public realm, and transportation improvements within the greater Mattapan neighborhood through recommendations for zoning amendments, urban design guidelines, and transportation improvements. Adriana.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Director Jemison, and Secretary Paulinas. My name is Adriana Lasso-Harrier, and I'm the neighborhood planner covering Mattapan, as well as the plan lead for Plan Mattapan, which I'm very excited to bring forward for your consideration today. Next slide, please. Plan Mattapan is a city planning initiative that crafts an equitable, community-driven future for Mattapan. This plan is meant to be a functional document that focuses on how future development can help Mattapan residents increase generational wealth, address historic inequities, and avoid displacement of current residents. As the plan's vision statement outlines, Plan Mattapan is focused on creating new housing opportunities while also maintaining stability for current residents, improving access to safe and reliable transit with a particular focus on pedestrian safety in Mattapan, and quicker access to education and job hubs across Boston. And lastly, strengthening local business opportunities in the neighborhood with a focus on Mattapan Square. Next slide. Plan Mattapan was launched in October 2018 with the charge to develop a comprehensive, community-centered vision for the neighborhood that could guide future growth in an equitable and predictable way. Over the last 5 years, the planning team worked alongside the Mattapan community to craft the vision, goals, and planning recommendations that make up the final draft for adoption that you see before you today. Next slide. In total, there were more than 150 different engagements, which ranged from public meetings and planning workshops to in-person chats with a planner at the Mattapan Library, activities at neighborhood events, community one-on-ones, and many walkthroughs along Blue Hill Ave. Kenya Beeman, who is Mattapan's community engagement manager and also a lifelong resident of Mattapan, led every single one of these engagement events and ensured that the planning team met with community members of all ages and backgrounds and that every voice was heard. She's on a well-deserved vacation right now, but I just want to give her a special shout out as her expertise and hard work were incredibly critical to this plan. Next slide. I'll now walk you through the planning recommendations. Plan Mattapan has 3 main sections that each focus on these 3 geographic areas of Mattapan on the screen before you: nodes, corridors, and residential fabric. The reason it does this is because one of the plan's most important recommendations is that Mattapan evolve into a 10-minute neighborhood, which is a neighborhood where essential services, local shops, parks, and transit are no more than a 10-minute walk from anyone's doorstep. So in order to make sure that this 10-minute vision actually can be achieved, Mattapan's nodes, like Mattapan Square, corridors like Blue Hill Ave, and its residential fabric, need to be more accessible and work more closely together, which can be accomplished through mobility improvements and key zoning changes. Next slide. So starting with Mattapan's nodes and squares, the recommendations in the plan all are meant to strengthen Mattapan's nodes as the economic and cultural destinations that they truly are. One major way that the plan proposes doing this is by actually creating new business nodes throughout Mattapan. As you can see from the map, the majority of Mattapan's existing nodes are clustered along Blue Hill Ave. But by introducing more areas that allow mixed-use zoning throughout the neighborhood, Plan Mattapan lays the foundation for creating 3 new neighborhood nodes, seen here in the yellow dots on this map, that are deeper within the residential fabric. This additional zoning capacity for more local business throughout Mattapan helps to further the 10-minute vision that I described earlier. Next slide. In both current and future nodes, the vision is overall similar. The plan recommends the development of more diverse commercial and cultural spaces that promote gathering, like sit-down restaurants, event spaces for young people, and also underscores how to access city programs to support current and future business owners. A healthy, vibrant public realm that includes more greenery, more opportunities for public art, and promotes mobility is also key. And finally, increasing capacity for housing is envisioned within all of Mattapan's nodes. Next slide. Plan Mattapan's corridor recommendations focus on ensuring that its corridors keep working safely and reliably through improved access to bus and rapid transit and safety enhancements for pedestrians, like building more crosswalks or improving street services. Corridors are also a prime location for transit-oriented development, and the plan recommends that multifamily zoning be expanded along corridors in order to support more multifamily residential development, as well as more opportunities for local business. Next slide. With increased access for multifamily and mixed-use development and transportation strategies that improve reliability and accessibility, the plan's recommendations really aim to create corridors in Mattapan that are safe, resilient, and just really welcoming places to be in. The plan also makes key recommendations toward improvements for public health along corridors, including combating smog and heat with more trees and green infrastructure, as well as prioritizing development of art and cultural spaces through increased community benefits from larger residential sites. Next slide. One of the most important linchpins of the plan is that development in Mattapan must happen without displacement of existing residents. So while it's certainly important to meet the citywide need for housing, it's also equally critical to ensure that existing residents are secure in their homes and also are able to build wealth. So to this end, the plan proposes the introduction of a new additional dwelling unit policy that would allow new freestanding accessory structures to be built as of right, which I'll go into more detail in subsequent slides. Promoting more opportunities for homeownership in new developments is also an important part of the plan, and already steps have been taken towards this goal through Welcome Home Boston, which is an initiative through the Mayor's Office of Housing that fast-tracks the production of new, affordable homes on city-owned lots, including close to 24 that have been identified in Mattapan. And finally, the plan makes recommendations around expanding Boston's Green Links network in Mattapan, enabling better access to parks by installing new walking paths, bike facilities, and safer road crossings. Next slide. So a bit of context around ADUs. We do currently have a citywide ADU program in Boston that allows homeowners to convert pre-existing spaces within their homes, like attics or basements, into additional units. This program has been successful, and during the planning process, BPDA staff actually were able to connect with a Mattapan resident who has the enviable title of having built the city's first additional dwelling unit in the basement of his home, which he's used as a short-term rental for some additional income. Next slide. Throughout the planning process, we heard from Mattapan residents that multi-generational housing and aging in place was a top priority, along with expanding opportunities for generating extra income to help cover living costs. Backyard ADUs afford growing families more room, allow seniors to age in place, accommodate diverse household configurations, and they offer a boost in income for owners who might want to use them as rentals. ADUs can also support artist uses like live workspaces or studios. Next slide. As a next step for implementation, the plan recommends a zoning feasibility study into how to implement backyard ADUs, both for the building of new structures and also by converting existing structures, like unused garages, into living spaces. This zoning study will analyze trends and patterns of ADU development both in Mattapan and across Boston, with the ultimate goal of developing a recommended zoning envelope for ADUs in Mattapan. The BPDA is also coordinating with the Mayor's Office of Housing to explore funding programs and technical assistance that will make the development and the construction of ADUs more affordable for Mattapan homeowners. Next slide. Of course, a neighborhood plan is only as good as its plan for implementation. So I'd like to end this presentation with a few notes on the next steps that the planning team has identified for Plan Mattapan. First is the zoning feasibility study, which I just described, which is scheduled to start later this month. Pending the results of that study and further community process, Mattapan could have new zoning for ADUs within a year. Secondly, we've identified a need for meetings with business and property owners within Mattapan Square to talk to them more about the community's vision of the square and the anticipated zoning changes. And these meetings will be scheduled within the coming months. We're planning to deliver the new zoning to fulfill the plan recommendations within the next year as part of the citywide Squares and Corridors initiative. I also want to recognize 3 letters of support that Plan Mattapan received from Senator Liz Miranda, Representative Brandy Fluker-Oakley, and Councilor Ricardo Arroyo. And lastly, I'd like to thank the Mattapan community who showed so much dedication to their neighborhood throughout the whole planning process. Plan Mattapan really is both by and for the community. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hey, any questions or comments from the board?
A terrific piece of work. Thank you for all of the participants.
Madam Chair, Councilor Lujan is on, and I'm going to allow her to talk. Councilor?
The floor is yours.
You just need to to unmute. There you go. Counselor? We can't hear you. I just made her a panelist. We'll see if that helps.
Hi, everyone.
There we go.
Can you hear and see me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Just want to thank everyone for their incredible work on Plan Mattapan. I am Ritzi Lujan, at-large city councilor, born and raised in Mattapan and Hyde Park, and currently live on the Hyde Park-Mattapan border. And I care about all of our neighborhoods in the city of Boston, but obviously care deeply also about Mattapan, where I grew up. Although Mattapan is a neighborhood with the highest rate of Black homeownership in the city, it still faces serious social and economic disparities. It's a neighborhood that lacks sit-down restaurants and other establishments that make for thriving neighborhoods. We have to continue to focus on ways to increase generational wealth, address historic inequities, and most importantly, avoid displacing existing residents. Plan Mattapan's goal of economic and transit-oriented development with a focus on affordable housing growth is the right idea. Making it easier for homeowners to add additional dwelling units, partnering with community land trusts on creative solutions to make sure that our residents aren't being displaced, and to think about how our elders are able to age with dignity, working with current landlords, especially in Mattapan Square, to be part of building a more resilient, forward-thinking Mattapan that works for current and future residents. That's the goal. And it's really important that in the process that we embrace Mattapan's character and charm, a neighborhood that is teeming with generational families and strong Caribbean identities. Those identities have to be centered in order for the growth we want to be successful. As stated in the executive summary, Mattapan is the place where families plant roots. Today, Mattapan is home to one of Boston's largest Haitian and Caribbean populations. My family is Haitian American. It's also a neighborhood that has welcomed migrant families for generations. Even though Mattapan has a lot, really a lot going for it, it's really going to take all of us here in the city to work together to make sure that we are promoting growth, the growth that we want to see. Restaurants giving opportunities to entrepreneurs who don't have the capital to really be able to invest in Mattapan. I worked along with Councilor Rob to get more liquor licenses into our neighborhoods, and we continue that work so that we can have those sit-down restaurants. I'm excited for what's in Plan Mattapan as the first step to thinking about growth and development in Mattapan. I believe that there should always be a community-led process with community at the center, and I commend BPDA for holding meetings in the Haitian community, for translating documents, for all the folks that were involved in giving community feedback into what the future of Mattapan should be. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to the continued work.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate you. Okay, well, I'm just, I'm thrilled. I think this is an amazing plan. You can definitely tell that, it just fits. It really does fit. And I'm a Mattapan resident, and just, it is a multi-generational neighborhood, on our streets. And so I think the ADUs are just a really great, great tool, I think, for our neighbors. And yeah, can't wait for the 10-minute walkable experience, but I see it. You mapped it out with the nodes there, and yeah, just really excited. I'm really excited to get this into whatever zoning needs to happen to kind of, lock down and make sure that, this is a plan. The plan can, be, executed. So, all right. If there are no other further questions or comments, I believe a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Hansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, request authorization to petition the Board Zoning Commission to delete Articles 2 and 2A, definitions of the Boston Zoning Code, and adopt a new Article 2, which consolidates the definitions in Article 2 and 2A. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, Secretary Polymus, and Director Jemison. For the record, my name is Brian Glasscock. I'm Deputy Director for Regulatory Planning and Zoning at the BPDA, and I'm here to talk about the thrilling world of Boston Zoning Code definitions sections, Articles 2 and 2A. So next slide, please. Just a quick bit of context. We talk about 2 and 2A. There are two different sets of definitions applying to different parts of the code. They sort of evolved independent of one another, and as a result, they're kind of predictable non-incongruencies, we've been calling them. But we've decided the time is right to try and fix that. And it creates a lot of confusion. Even seasoned veterans have trouble sometimes with this. So, next slide, please. So I want to talk just briefly about the process that we've gone through. We've actually been working on this for nearly a year, I would say, on plugging away. There are a lot of definitions to go through, but this first phase would be creating a single set of definitions that apply to the entire code, so people don't have to sort of hunt around and figure out which set applies to them. And then going forward through the summer, we found some places where there's some of the definitions don't align perfectly. We need to fix those, standardize the terms so that they truly do apply across the board. Our first step here was we were very careful to make sure that nothing we did changed how the definitions apply to the code, change how the code operates within those definitions. We're not changing anybody's property rights. We're not doing anything that changes how the code works. But in subsequent phases, we're going to have to make some decisions about things that will potentially change how the code works. So that third phase, going end of this year into next, is really where some of the really super hard work is going to take place. And with that, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Cyrus Maselli, who's been instrumental in sort of moving this forward. Cyrus?
Thanks, Brian. Next slide. For the record, my name is Cyrus Maselli. I'm the planning assistant for downtown and neighborhood planning at the BPDA. When contemplating the consolidation of the zoning code's definition sections, it's important to first kind of take a look at the numbers. As you can see here, these sets in their current form are incongruent. In total, 290 unique terms exist between the two sections. Of these, the majority are either distinct, meaning that they're defined in only one of the definitions articles, or overlapping with the same definition across both articles. There's several terms, though, 43 to be exact, that have inconsistencies in how they are defined between the two sections. So getting to a single definition set for the zoning code requires, at a minimum, that those 43 incongruencies be resolved, and in a way that does not substantively alter the meaning, function, or operation of the code. Next slide. In this phase of the definitions project, as Brian mentioned, we're aiming to consolidate Articles 2 and 2A into a single set of definitions, which will be applicable to the entire zoning code. And a number of strategies were employed to accomplish this goal. Those 43 terms that are incongruent and overlapping were resolved in one of two ways, by either one, choosing one of the two existing definitions to adopt, or two, rewriting definitions to clarify meaning or be inclusive of both existing versions. In addition to this, we also took the opportunity to both clarify and reformat certain definitions with overly confusing language, as well as delete parallel and unnecessary terms from the code. And because this initial phase of the definitions project focuses on streamlining structure, special attention was given to ensuring that the scope of these definitions updates would not substantively affect the meaning, function, or operation of the code. And if approved, this process of consolidation will remove duplicate and incongruent terms and language from the code, eliminate questions about which definitions apply in any given situation, make the definition section easier to update in the future, and more broadly set a strong and holistic foundation for code updates to come. So now I'll pass the baton to my colleague Maya to run through some examples of the updates we pursued.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Maya Catler-Bowles. I'm the Planning Assistant for Regulatory Planning and Zoning at the BPDA. So I'm going to go through a few examples that demonstrate some of the different types of approaches we took in updating and consolidating the definitions of 2 and 2A. This first example shows definitions where we maintained one of the 2 existing definitions. For this example, you can see the definitions are very similar. 2 refers to the building department, while 2A refers to inspectional services department. So we maintained 2A because it was just slightly more specific. Next slide, please. A few definitions required more substantial combining and editing because they contain explicit contradictions. For example, in these definitions of multifamily dwelling, in 2, it's a building containing 3 units, and in 2A, it's a building containing 4 units. So in our new definition, we say that for projects where 2 currently applies, that it's still 3 units, and for projects where 2A currently applies, it's still 4 units, so that the function in the code remains the same. Next slide, please. For a few definitions, we also made some very minor language or grammatical fixes. For instance, here you can see that we clarified that this reference to Chapter 91 refers to the Massachusetts general law. And in this definition, we just replaced a comma with a colon. Next slide, please. There were some definitions that have very confusing wording that we took this opportunity to just update and clarify, still without changing the substantive meaning. Next slide, please. Lastly, there were 3 terms that we were able to delete that you can see here. Next slide. You can reference all the terms with the existing and the new definitions in the summary of updates, which we provided in the board packets. Thank you, and I will now pass it back to Brian.
Thank you, Maya. Can I get the next slide, please? So one thing I want to highlight, previously we held a couple of public meetings to talk about clarifying the language around floor area ratio, gross floor area, lot size, and so on. That's a particularly confusing section of the definitions and does have some implications for development potential. We will be taking that up. We did not include any of those proposed changes in what is before you today. That will come about in the subsequent phases of our work on the definitions. But I know that the members of the public were very much interested, and folks in the development community were very much interested in how we sort that stuff out. And that's just a preview of coming attractions, I guess, if you will. Next slide. So I want to take this time to thank you and certainly commend Cyrus and Maya for their hard work on this. This is really challenging, sometimes tedious stuff, and I appreciate all their hard work on it. And I also want to introduce Cynthia Barr, who's the outside counsel working with us on this, who's provide invaluable insight. Cynthia's literally written the book on the Boston zoning code, so you may know her, and is super familiar with all of the challenges of this work. And we have her on hand to answer any questions that we can't handle. With that, I welcome your questions.
Thanks, Brian. Do we have any questions and comments from the board? Okay, so, again, Brian, Cyrus, Maya, congratulations. This is this is a big project. And that's very, very tedious work. And I think you did a great job of, structuring it in the different phases and gave us a lot of assurance, right, in this first phase, what we were doing. So it was a really great presentation, and it made it clear what this phase was about. So we look forward to phase 2 and 3 and all the fun, far stuff that you have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Right, with that, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Hansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, All right, item number 7, Board of Appeal. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, Director Jemison. Before I present the appeals, I would like to personally thank Brian Glasscock for the past 9 years that he's had at the agency. He's taught me a lot in terms of regulatory information, and we've had some sessions where, you know, zoning has driven us a little bit wild, but I wanted to thank him. I know Brian's leaving at the end of the month, but I wanted to personally thank him for the past 9 years that I've worked with him. It's been an honor and a privilege. So thank you, Brian. Before you tonight are 49 zoning petitions that will be transmitted to the Zoning Board of Appeal. Our planning staff worked on this past month. These 49 petitions will cover the Board of Appeal hearings slated for May 18th, May 23rd, and June 6th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion passes. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, item number 8. Request authorization to enter into a license agreement with the General Hospital Corporation to establish the terms and conditions for the use of portions of 2nd Avenue within the Charlestown Navy Yard to be utilized in connection with facade maintenance and repair to be performed on Building 149 within the Charlestown Navy Yard for a term ending no later than September 30th, 2023. Warren.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, my name is Lauren Bernstein. I work for the Real Estate Department as a Senior Project Manager. Today I'm here before you to ask for a license with the Mass General Hospital. The General Hospital Corporation and its affiliates comprise the largest hospital-based research program in the nation. MGH leases Building 149, located within the historic monument area district of Charlestown Navy Yard, until their amended ground lease expires on May 22nd, 2065. MGH has approached the BPDA with a request to utilize approximately 15,000 square feet of adjacent property owned by the BPDA on 2nd Avenue within the Charlestown Navy Yard in connection with the planned building facade maintenance and repair to be performed on Building 149 for a term to expire no later than September 30th, 2023. The specific operations to be performed within the licensed premises will be laid down in staging, as well as the location of its main lifts and other heavy equipment necessary to complete the proposed maintenance and repairs. The existing ground lease agreement provides MGH with an easement to use portions of 2nd Ave and adjoining areas for these purposes. MGH is currently utilizing the premises for the proposed use under a temporary 30-day license. Subject to board authorization requested today, the expiration of the license will be extended to September 30th, 2023. BPDA staff recommends that the director be authorized to enter into a license agreement between BPDA and MGH on terms described above. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Landsmark?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 9, request authorization to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Boston Police Department for the temporary use of parcels in the Campus High School urban renewal area of Roxbury for employee parking. Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Over the course of 24 hours, approximately 1,000 employees work at Boston Police Headquarters, located at 1 Schroeder Plaza in Roxbury, including the 911 Dispatch Division. The division has 178 full-time employees, and the operations floor is staffed by a combination of civilian 911 call takers and police dispatchers, supported by additional civilian personnel. BPD is required to temporarily relocate current employee vehicle parking from a nearby parking lot to accommodate construction and development. Resident parking only restrictions are in place on multiple streets around Schroeder Plaza. Although a small number of visitor parking spaces with short-term time limits exist, the vast majority of the parking spaces are reserved for residents. in order to provide safe, unrestricted parking for the employees working at police headquarters on a temporary basis, while respecting the neighborhood's parking rights, the Boston Police Department has requested the use of a portion of land at the Crescent parcel and parcel P3 owned by the BPDA in the campus high school urban renewal area. The licensed premises will be used exclusively for the purpose of supporting the Boston Police Department employee parking. The licensee acknowledges and agrees that both the licensed premises are future development sites and the permitted uses herein are only temporary. We expect for BPD to come up with a longer-term parking strategy that does not impact residential parking and community development. They further agree to maintain the licensed premises in a clean, safe, and orderly condition and repair. The Boston Police Department additionally agrees to vacate the sites upon 120-day written notice from the BPDA. Due to the public safety component of the request, no fee is proposed for the use of this licensed premises. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Do we have any sense of how temporary this would be? Because I know there are concerns that displacing a number of police department employees from these lots may not be the easiest thing to do once these parcels are so occupied.
I would suggest not only would it not be easy, it's probably not advisable. It's good to have people that answer 911 calls, I think. But in all honesty, we're working on resolutions encouraging the BPD to consider future sites and work with the developers in the area to make sure that we can adequately staff our safety officials.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing and saying none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 10, request authorization to enter into a contract for consultant services with Claire White's Architects LLP, doing business as WXY Architecture and Design and Urban Design, in an amount not to exceed $350,000 or a term not to exceed 10 months for the Harvard Enterprise Research Campus District and Greenway Plan. Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair Rojas, Secretary Palahimas, and members of the board. The RFP for the Harvard Enterprise Research Campus, or ERC, District and Greenway Plan was issued in February of this year. Funded by ERC Phase A's mitigation and community benefits package, the goal of the Harvard ERC plan is to work with the community to establish a district-wide vision for the area and create a predictable and enforceable framework for the future development of the area that is sensitive to the needs and the goals of the neighborhood. The BPDA received 6 proposals for the RFP. An evaluation committee composed of BPDA planning division staff evaluated the 6 teams based on 5 criteria: respondent team qualifications, project manager experience, content, and the respondent interview. Of the 6 teams, Claire Wise Architects received the highest rating from the evaluation committee for their substantial knowledge in urban design, open space, and land use space planning, alongside their experience working collaboratively with stakeholders and communities to develop consensus-driven projects and plans. Next slide. Their consultant team also includes ARIP, who brings an understanding of the mobility and infrastructure challenges of the site, as well as Department of Play, who will develop on-site community engagement strategies for the project. The awarded contract will last for 10 months with an amount not to exceed $350,000 and will kick off next month. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
Oh, you muted, Ted. So moved.
Second? Get a second? Can I have a second for motion?
Made the motion, Ted. You get us a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lansmark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 11, request authorization to advertise and issue a request for proposals from qualified developers to redevelop parcel L29 in the Washington Park urban renewal area, known as 157 Harris-Hoff Street in Roxbury. Jonathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Director Jemison, Madam Secretary, and members of the board. I'm here today to request approval to advertise and issue an RFP for BPDA parcel L29, known as 157 Harris-Hoff Street, which consists of approximately 4,292 square feet of vacant land, consisting of grass, immature trees along its edges, located in the Washington Park urban renewal area in the Roxbury neighborhood. This RFP was developed through increased community involvement in the disposition process for infill parcels in the Roxbury community. As one of the Higginson parcels, the community engagement process started with a discussion on April 4th, 2022, with neighborhood leaders to learn their wants and needs for the redevelopment of the property. After a 2-month time frame, the community leaders submitted a request that the property be redeveloped as low-density residential housing. On July 25th, 2022, the BPDA held a community meeting for the parcel at which the community supported the neighborhood leaders' position and further requested that off-street parking be provided with any new development. 2 additional community meetings were held on September 14th, 2022 and April 19th, 2023, which discussed the draft RFP, which seeks the development of a residential duplex housing, designed in line with the previous and ongoing residential developments in the area. The key community stakeholders supported the draft RFP for low-density residential development consisting of 2 new units, one used as a rental, and one used for home ownership. The BPDA staff recommends that the Secretary be authorized to advertise and issue a request for proposal from qualified developers for the sale of parcel L29, known as 157 Harris-Hoff Street. With that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 12, request authorization to dispose of parcel 3GC in the Kittredge Square urban renewal area, project number Mass R-167, known as 21 Morley Street, pursuant to the abutters parcel program. Jonathan.
Thank you all again. This board memo is to request the approval to advertise and issue an application through the Butters Parcel Program for BPA Parcel 3-GC, known as 21 Morley Street, which consists of approximately 1,374 square feet of vacant land, which is located in the Kittredge Square urban renewal area in the Roxbury neighborhood. On December 17, 2020, the board approved the addition of 21 Morley Street into the Butters Parcels Program. The purpose of the program is to sell small, unbuildable, BPDA-owned vacant land parcels to abutters as deed-restricted open space. This land has a low value and does not offer development potential and is best suited for reuse as open space in connection with residential uses. This is why it is eligible through the Butters Parcels Program. Previous attempts to submit this parcel through the Butters Parcels Program were unsuccessful. On September 21st, 2023, the BPDA had a conversation with the abutters of the parcel, and the request for a parcel expansion to 19 Morley Street was made. Being that there is an interested party that would like to use this land solely as green space, the BPDA staff determined that releasing the abutter parcels application again will produce results. After the approval, the application will be open for 60 days. The disposition asking price will be based on the 2023 assessed value for the parcel, which is $17,300. The BPDA staff recommends that the Secretary be authorized to advertise and issue applications to qualified abutters for parcel 3-GC in the Kittredge Square urban renewal area in Roxbury. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 13, request authorization to approve the restructuring of the tentative designation extension fees of a portion of Parcel 10 of the Southwest Corridor Development Plan, known as Parcel B, tentatively designated to Madison Trinity 2085 Development LLC. Jonathan.
Thank you again. This request is for the approval and restructuring of tentative designation extension fees required for a portion of Parcel 10, known as Parcel B, tentatively designated to Madison Trinity 2085 Development LLC. The board most recently approved an extension of the tentative designation on April 13, 2023. The RFP for Parcel 10, which was released in 2011, required the payment of tentative designation extension fees. That requirement was subsequently modified after the execution of a long-term ground lease for Parcel 10 to Tropical Foods Market on November 10th, 2015. The upcoming following terms are the terms and conditions for tentative designation, meant to provide mutual understanding on what is owed in the fees going forward for this project. The redeveloper has paid the BPDA $165,727.95 in tentative designation extension fees since November 10th, 2015. The redeveloper is required to pay the remaining tentative designation fees for the previous extensions that have been granted starting from the November 10th, 2015 extension, which equals $197,407.74 due and owing to the BPDA. The redeveloper is required to pay the outstanding fees within the 1 month period following this board meeting. The BPDA has paused tentative designation extension fees after April 30th, 2023. If another extension of the tentative designation is required in October of 2023, the tentative designation extension fees will resume. At that time, the redeveloper will be required to pay $208.33 per day due on a monthly basis until final designation is reached. That being said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 14. Yes. Request authorization to extend the tentative designation status of Windale Developers Incorporated for 6 months to November 30th, 2023 as developer of 12 BPDA-owned parcels through the Neighborhood Homes Initiative at Hallworthy and Hollander Street in the Washington Park urban renewal area. Project number Mass R-24, located in Roxbury. Jonathan.
Thank you again. I believe I was just repeating what you were saying, so I'll just skip a little bit ahead. As you may recall, the board originally voted to award Windale Developers Incorporated tentative designation on May 12, 2022. Windale Developers are proposing to construct the RFP requirements of 23 new residential units, which include 3 single-family homes, 8 side-by-side townhomes, and 2 two-family homes. Of the 23 residential units, 16 would be for affordable home ownership, 5 would be market rate ownership, 2 would be market rate rentals. The affordable homes are evenly distributed between 80% AMI and 100% AMI. In the submission of their Article 80 small project review application, and they have completed the public meeting requirement on March 20th, 2023. Since the tentative designation, Windale Developers have made significant progress towards final designation. Some of the milestones they have achieved include the Public Improvement Commission approval for the discontinuance of a portion of Hollander Street and a portion of Hallworthy Street, and for the widening, relocation, and extension of the existing street lines of Harold Street, and submission of an application for MassWorks funding. During this requested tentative designation extension, the developers will seek BPDA Article 80 approval, DACD approval, zoning approval, the negotiation of terms of the deed and disposition agreement, and to pursue additional sources of project financing. With that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, item number 15, request authorization to extend the tentative designation status of Diane Bell to facilitate the sale of the BRA-owned 20R Dacia Street parcel in Roxbury. Jonathan.
Thank you. This is my last one for the day. As you may recall, the board originally voted to award Diane Bell tentative designation status on November 17, 2022. On February 10, 2022, the BPA board approved the request to include 20 Ardacea Street into the butter parcel program. On May 21st, 2022, the BPA board made applications for 20 Ardacea Street available to direct the butters for 60 days, after which the agency only received one application from Ms. Diane Bell. Ms. Bell's proposed improvements to the land include keeping the parcel as open green space, planting a perennial garden, grass, and tree replacements, installing private fence and planters along the edges of the parcel, and installing a gazebo for shade and sitting. Since our tentative designation was made, significant progress toward final designation, including a partnership with Speak for the Trees Incorporated for tree planting and yard maintenance, and the submission of a site plan to the BPDA for review by our landscape architects. During this requested tentative designation extension, she will seek BPA approval of her design plan, negotiate terms of the deed and land disposition agreement, and pursue additional sources of project financing. That being said, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right, item number 16, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion for the successful completion of phase 2 of the construction of 2 residential buildings located at 25 Whittier Street and 180 Ruggles Street in Roxbury, in accordance with the cooperation agreement for the Whittier Choice Neighborhood Project by and between the BRA and POAH Madison Associates, LLC, dated December 22nd, 2017. So it's a certificate of completion, so no presentation. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 17. Request authorization to issue a certification of compliance in accordance with Article 80A-6 of the Zoning Code in connection with the notice of project change for the construction of 60 affordable housing units, in which 48 are senior rental units and 12 are home ownership units, 37 parking spaces located at 4 through 18 Cheney Street in Dorchester. Issue a certification of compliance under Section 80B-6 of the Code upon successful completion of the Article 80 review process for the proposed project as modified by the NPC, and to take all related actions. Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson, Secretary Paul Hemius. My name is Daniel Polanco. I'm the project manager for the proposed notice of project change before you this evening on 4 to 18 Cheney Street, located in Dorchester. Project submitted their notice of project change application March 8, 2023, which comprises a 4-story building located in the north side of the project site. The building, as modified by the NPC, is now proposed to include approximately 48 senior residential units, decreased from 59, with a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, all ranging from 30 to 50% to 60% of AMI, with approximately 5,500 square feet of community space. Building would include approximately 25 at-grade level parking spaces. Overall, the project concept, which is unchanged from the NPC, combines the rental housing and affordable home ownership, and will facilitate comprehensive resident services for tenants, including PACE services for any neighborhood resident enrolled in the program, and other services for special needs populations as appropriate. On April 24th, 2023, the BPDA convened a public meeting for the community's review and comment. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening. I have the development team here with me today to present the project in detail, to answer any questions in regards to the project and the other questions you may have. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to the development team.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jemison. Thank you for your time today. My name is Ricky Guerra, and I'm the Associate Director of Real Estate at Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Development Corporation. I'm here today to present the changes to the approved Cheney Street site. Next slide, please. So this slide provides a general overview of the project to date. 4 to 18 Cheney Street is 100% affordable senior rental project. The project first filed a PNF in October of 2020 and received Article 80 approval in September of 2021. Following this approval, JPNDC continued to meet with local neighborhood groups to seek their feedback. And it was these conversations that really informed the changes that we're presenting through this notice of project change. The team filed an MPC in March of 2023, and the BPDA held a public meeting in April of this year, during which community residents reiterated their support of the proposed changes, which brings us here to the vote today. Next slide, please. So here's a brief summary of the changes from the original scheme. The number of units for the rental project was reduced from 59 to 48 units. The front yard setback was increased from 14 feet to 38 feet. And the number of parking spaces on the rental site has been decreased from 28 to 25. However, the current plan assigns all 25 parking spaces to the senior building, as opposed to the previous scheme, which allotted 19 of those spaces for seniors and 9 spaces for the home ownership units at the adjacent 20 to 28 Cheney site. The overall square footage was also reduced. Next slide, please. So this slide illustrates priorities that were identified by the community groups, which are as follows. So we were asked to reduce the unit count to 49 units or less, to lower the overall building height, and to enhance the quality of life for seniors through thoughtful design and density. We firmly believe that the current proposal successfully addresses all of these priorities, and I'll let our design team speak to those more in detail in just a second. Next slide, please. The overall program reduced the number of units, but we deepened the level of affordability by increasing project-based subsidies from 20 to 24 to make this project more affordable to seniors. Next slide, please. We'll hand it over to our design team for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. Thanks, everybody. We just have a few slides here to talk about the changes that we made to the project, the improvements. What you see on the screen here now is the earlier scheme that was designed initially. The building is set close to Cheney Street. That's Cheney Street running up and down the page there on the far right. The building's relatively close to the street, and the driveway pops straight into the front of the building. There's a gracious multi-use courtyard in the back. The building is L-shaped. Let's go to the next slide. Great, thank you. So what we've done in this for the notice of project change, and as a result of the community input, is we've reduced the number of units, as Ricky shared earlier, and in doing so, we shortened the shape of the building. So we were able to push it back from Cheney Street, as shown there with the yellow arrow and the green space in front. We've created a really nice outdoor courtyard, place for the seniors to enjoy, and as this transition space from inside to outside, sort of as an outdoor lobby. It's also at grade, which it wasn't before. There's still the outdoor multi-use courtyard in the back that's also going to be used as a secure outdoor space for the seniors. We've also, because of the shifting the building back so far, we've also been able to shift the driveway out of the front yard, out of the front of the building. So that's the small black arrow there on the bottom of the page, coming down and turning into the building. So those are the primary changes there that we've made in the scale and density on the site as a response to community input. Let's have a look at the next slide. I think we have a couple of images of what the building looks like. The images here on the left show what the building looked like previously, where it was close to the sidewalk and we had some additional height on top. The image here on the right looks essentially the way it is designed now. We've enclosed the garage area with the driveway coming down here on the far left side. The building will be clad in a nice buff brick masonry. It's 3 and 4 stories stepping up the hill. There are other similar apartment buildings in the neighborhood we're going to fit in as we step up the hill like that with a nice cornice and the landscaped front yard. The building is going to be passive house. We're excited to increase the healthy homes here for the seniors. Ricky mentioned that there are mostly one-bedroom apartments and some two-bedroom. 47 one-bedroom apartments are provided here. They're about 640 square feet, ranging to just over 800 square feet. There are two-bedroom apartments that are just over 900 square feet. The parking is below the building. It is completely enclosed. You can't see it from the street. You can't see it from anywhere. It's mechanically ventilated and secure. And we're also really excited to be including a PACE Day program here on the ground floor for seniors both in the building and in the larger community to come spend the day and take advantage of the supportive programming here. Of course, the building's also designed for solar. Do we have one more slide? We might be almost there. One more slide. Great, thank you. This shows very clearly how we've pushed the building back and lowered the height as a request with community input. We've been working really well with Mayor's Office of Housing and BPDA design staff to further this project. Thank you.
Okay, so does that conclude the presentation?
I think so.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations, such a beautiful project and great space for our senior community. Looks beautiful.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Cheers. Okay, so that was, okay, so item number 18. Request authorization to enter into an affordable housing agreement in connection with the proposed development located at 116 through 120 Moore Street in East Boston, and to take all related actions. Maggie.
Hello, and thank you, Chairwoman Rojas, Secretary Polhemus, Director Jemison, and members of the board. For the record, I am Maggie Cherry, Housing Policy Manager. I am here before you today on 116 to 120 Moore Street in East Boston. This is a 14-unit home ownership project that received its Zoning Board of Appeal approval on August 28, 2020, and does not require Article 80 approval. This project is here before you today because it will provide 2 income-restricted inclusionary development policy units. Your vote today is to authorize the execution of an affordable housing agreement. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Maggie. Okay, item number 19. Request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80 Large Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 82 residential units, including 19 IDP units, 35,164 square feet of retail space, 87 parking spaces, and 138 parking spaces. 138 bicycle spaces, 87 parking spaces. Located at 3390 Washington Street, and to take all related actions. Michael.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jemison. Michael Sinatra, I'm Senior Project Manager with Development Review. The project before you this evening is 3390 Washington Street in Jamaica Plain. We are seeking Article 80B Large Project Review approval. The existing site is a location of BMS paper on a parcel of 88,525 square feet. The proposed project contemplates keeping the existing business but constructing 82 units of residential rental housing and a new neighborhood restaurant and other retail space. There will be 87 parking spaces associated with the project, shared amongst the residential and the commercial. Because the project is located within JP Rocks, the proponent will be including the required 20% IDP. It'll be 23% to be exact, for a total of 19 units, as well as designing the buildings to LEED Gold certification. The gross floor area for the project will be 129,525 with an FAR of 1.46 and a maximum height of 68.9 feet, and the total development cost will be $47 million. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kathleen Onifer from the Planning Department to run through the planning context, and then over to the proponent to run through their presentation, after which we'd be happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polhemus, and members of the board. I'm Kathleen Onifer with our Downtown and Neighborhood Planning Department, and I'm here covering for our JP neighborhood planner who's out at a community event. The planning context for this project is set by the planned JP Rock study area. And one of the most important recommendations of this plan is achieving at least 20% income restricted housing. And at 23%, this proposal exceeds the recommendations of the plan. The proposed development program effectively achieves the plan's two primary land use goals: producing new housing on vacant and underutilized land, and also a focus on retaining existing local businesses. Plan JP Rocks identifies this location as a development focus area where height of up to 6 stories is appropriate. The project also reuses the existing building along Washington Street, helping to retain historic fabric. The proposed site plan and public realm improvements are consistent with the planning recommendations for on-site open space, as well as complete streets and active ground floor use along Washington Street, as envisioned in the plan. The project also includes a number of mobility features consistent with Plan JP Rocks recommendations: an unbundled parking program where parking spots are rented separately from housing units so car-free households can save on parking costs, provision of a blue bike station, a new crosswalk, a curb extension, and through-block pedestrian connections. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to the proponent.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson, and Madam Secretary Polhemus. My name is Chris Tracy. I'm a Vice President at O'Neill & Associates with a business address of 18 Tremont Street in Boston. With me today is Bob Harrington, my client, the owner and operator of BMS Paper in Jamaica Plain, and David O'Sullivan and Donnie Garrity of O'Sullivan Architects. We'll be brief. Bob has been in this community for decades. He's been the proprietor of BMS Paper. If you've never been, we recommend you to come down. He has hired locally. He's been a part of the fabric of this community for an awful long time. And we're at a very wonderful location, really, right smack in the middle of Eggleston Square and Forest Hills on the Washington Street corridor. We're thrilled to be here tonight after a robust process. Bob and I began meeting with neighbors pre-pandemic on site, and here we are, and we're thrilled to come before you with some much needed housing for the corridor, including IDP units, also an expansion of the existing retail, and some new restaurant and amenity space. With that being said, I'll hand it over to David O'Sullivan. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. David O'Sullivan from O'Sullivan Architects. This is the existing building. Next slide. This gives you some of the context. The existing building along Washington takes up most of our street frontage. We have a parking lot on the south end that is the entrance now. And behind the building was basically just open parking areas with some treat areas in the rear. Next. The site is adjacent to the new Pine Street development, which is directly to our north. We share a driveway with the Pine Street development. The existing building along Washington is being retained and being renovated. The addition to the back of it is called Building A, is new residential units. And then in the rear of the site, we have a Building B, which consists of units with parking and amenity spaces. Next slide. This is the ground floor plan. The retail space of BMS Paper will be expanded back and become an L-shaped space with access on the south, with a new driveway and a new entrance plaza on the south end, and a new entrance from this new landscape courtyard that is replacing the parking lots that were there before. The building in back has parking buried into the hill and has bike parking, as we said, for 138 spaces with bike repair, a leasing office in the back building. We have loading dock on the south side for the restaurant space. We have loading dock on the in between the two buildings at the rear for the residential, trash, et cetera, and deliveries. Next slide. This is a view from Washington Street. The building in the foreground is the Pine Street building that is pretty much framed up now and under construction. To the right, you see the 2.5-story Washington Street building that is BMS paper. Behind it, you can see our addition to the BMS building, as well as the new building behind. And we specifically, through DC and BPDA staff, had split this into 2 buildings to create more openness to the courtyard and to enhance the views from Pine Street and our buildings to the green space behind. Next. This is a bird's eye view looking back towards Washington Street, which is in the far distance. There is Forestdale Apartments behind us. That's 3-story garden with a big parking lot. We've tried to address that with a building that's a similar scale to them. In the back, where it's built to the hill, we have an amenity space for our residents that's on top of the parking garage you see on the right side, and you can kind of peek into our courtyard. Next. This is a view.
Hey, what's going on?
What? Hello? It's a view into our courtyard, and you can see the Pine Street building in the distance. Next. This is on our south end. We have a new enhanced entrance for the BMS paper, and above it, we're taking the vacant space on the second floor and creating a new restaurant use for the project. This entrance now has a new driveway that we've obtained an easement from Eversource and allowed us to do a landscape courtyard in lieu of the parking lot that was in front of the building before, and enhance the Washington Street experience. Next slide. This is just a view down Washington now. We're retaining all the street trees, working with the building to keep its character. Next slide. Another view of the existing and proposed for the south entrance. And next. This is a view into our courtyard. You can see that we have a new entrance to the BMS paper directly in front of us. The building, the residential building to the left, and the residential entrance is over on the right-hand side of the courtyard. Identified by that, we have an arcade that runs from Washington Street all the way back through our building that's protected to lead people, pedestrians specifically, into the site. And we've taken pavement things to kind of identify bike lane versus driving lanes. Next. This is the entrance between our building and the Pine Street is to the left. We've created a new, cut into the building to create a new entrance for the restaurant space up above. That lead, the recessed entrance, gives people protected area to wait for rides, etc. It leads you up into the restaurant space that's on the second floor. There's a lobby, circulation, monumental stair. More importantly, just to the left of that, because we have a narrow driveway, we wanted to make sure that we provided protected pedestrian access. So we cut into the building, we've created this long arcade that allows, it's about 8 feet wide, that allows people to go from Washington Street safely into our courtyard and utilize the building and get the residential people from their pedestrian working on Washington Street back. Next. This is the entrance at the end of the arcade. It kind of opens up, and there's the entrance to the front building residences. You can see how we try to demarcate bike lanes. There is also several areas of outdoor biking, bike places, because we feel that a lot of the people coming to BMS and the restaurants will want to use bike transportation, hopefully, to enhance so that we have both automobile and pedestrian and bike access to the site. Next. Another view of the courtyard shows the kind of north entrance to BMS papers, so that people coming here, BMS has a lot of bulk. It's kind of a BJ's, city type BJ's, so there's a lot of bulk purchases. So we wanted to make sure we had sufficient parking and drop off areas, pickup areas for it, connected to the entrance here. Next. Entrance to the back residential. You'll notice that we provided a lot of balconies on most units for our private outdoor space, overlooking this common exterior public space. In the back corner, you can't see it, but we have also provided a through block pedestrian access from the Forestdale Apartments into our project courtyard, which then leads to Washington Street, and not having them have to go several blocks around to get from Washington Street businesses up to their units that are existing residential and the neighborhood behind. Next. Again, another goal of ours, this is the raised courtyard that Pine Street building is kind of a U shape. And we basically made sure that, our courtyard addressed them, enhanced their ability, and with that opening gives them a view from their courtyard and from the units itself that face this courtyard out into a green space that is existing on the property next to us. Next. This is our amenity for the residents. We covered the top of the parking area partially where there weren't units in order to provide a large outdoor space. Adjacent to it is an indoor amenity space. This is for the 82 residential units, giving them a nice outdoor space. It also gives a view from Pine Street to look into something nice, not into a parking or looking down at cars. And you can see it's about on level with the Forestdale parking lot, so it kind of ties the developments together. Next. This is just a detail through the arcade. The BCDC was very concerned about its feel and look, and we worked with them a lot and appreciate all their input to kind of create this walkway with welcoming people to the back of the site. And that's it. Any questions, let me know.
Hey, does that include
Well, this is just a facade. We did work with the BPDA staff, so you can see that we use balconies to break up the massing and different materials on different sections, and that arcade along the bottom to let visitors have protected space, portico, recessed entry for the residential. We also have large roll-up garage doors that go from BMS paper out to the courtyard to kind of have that inner-outdoor reaction. And on the top, we have a roof deck for the residents, and our building is going to be all electric and LEED gold, as we said, as well as having space for green roofs in certain areas and other areas with solar panels. I think that is the last slide.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Appreciate your attention to detail on the landscaping of this parcel. It's nicely done.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no other questions or comments, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mansmark?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion passes. Good luck. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's go to item number 20. Request authorization to enter into an affordable housing agreement in connection with the proposed development located at 27 Dixwell Street in Jamaica Plain, and to take all related actions. Maggie.
Hello, and thank you again, Chairwoman Rojas, Secretary Polimas, Director Jemison, and members of the board. For the record, I am Maggie Cherry, Housing Policy Manager. I'm here before you today on 27 Dixwell Street in Jamaica Plain. This is a 12-unit rental project that received its Zoning Board of Appeal approval on March 28, 2023, and does not require Article 80 approval. This project is here before you today because it will provide 2 income-restricted inclusionary development policy units. Your vote today is to authorize the execution of an affordable rental housing agreement and restriction. Thank you, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Hansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 21. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the project change of the construction of 49 residential units, including 7 IDP units, up to 44 parking spaces located at 375 Cummins Highway in Roslindale, and to take all related actions. Scott.
Good evening, and thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jemison. My name is Scott Greenhall, and I'm a project assistant with Development Review. The proposal before you this evening is a Notice of Project Change, or NPC, for the previously approved project at 375 Cummins Highway in Roslindale. This project was originally board approved in November of 2020. Today, the project is seeking changes to the ownership as well as the parking and affordable unit mix of the previously approved project. The proposal entails changes in ownership to 375 Cummins LLC and a reduction of parking spaces from up to 61 to up to 44 parking spaces. Additionally, this MPC proposes increasing the number of IDP units from the previously approved 6 to 7 of the 49 total residential units. The proposed 7 IDP units will be made affordable to households earning not more than 70% of the area median income, or AMI. Now, before I turn it over to Rick Schmidt from the development team to begin the presentation, I want to say thank you to the members of the public, elected officials, and city agencies who helped review the proposed 375 Cummins Highway Notice of Project Change. Thank you.
Scott, I think Rick has to be made a panelist. Is he?
I did
Thank
make
you.
him, yeah.
Oh, there he is. Thank you, Secretary.
Shall I take this, John, or is there anything you wanted to say? All right, here's an overall site plan indicating where our site in yellow is. We're adjacent to Mount Calvary Cemetery across Cummins Highway. Cummins Highway is running kind of east-west in front of our site. And to the southwest, we have American Legion Highway, and we're abutting the shopping center where Stop and Shop is to our southwest. Next slide. So here's a view from Cummins Highway looking towards where our site will have frontage on Cummins Highway. There's an existing electrical station to our right, Mount Calvary Cemetery across the street, and then the entrance to Stop and Shop is adjacent to our site. Next slide. Here's a view from the Stop and Shop Plaza looking at where our site will be. One of the major initiatives that we have is to maintain as much of the existing vegetation as possible on the site. Next slide. Here's a site plan of our proposal. What we're looking to do is keep the building oriented towards Cummins Highway, set back with additional planting, new street trees, an ornamental plaza for the residents to gather as an amenity space. We've tried to minimize the impact vehicles would have along Cummins Highway. We've got a discrete driveway entering the site, and we're looking to maintain the majority of the existing urban trees on the northwest of the site. Next slide. So here's a view of what you'd see from Cummins Highway. The building has a masonry front presenting itself to Cummins Highway. We've got room for visitor bicycles there. We've got the amenity space for the entrance of the residents of the building to enter into it. There's a discrete vehicular entrance. We've recessed the 6th floor to minimize the scale of the building. And we've tried to provide balconies and/or decks for the majority of the units in the building. Next slide. You can see here a view from Stop and Shop Plaza as you're looking at our building, the setback on the 6th floor mitigating the height of the building. And we've ghosted in the existing trees that are actually on the Stop and Shop property which will serve as a screen to our building. And then we're supplementing that with additional planting around the perimeter of the building. And I believe that's it, and I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 22. Request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80, Large Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 127 residential rental units, including 16 income-restricted units, 2,914 square feet of retail space, 152 parking spaces, and 127 bicycle spaces located at 2 H Street, and to take all related actions. Michael.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polimas, and Director Jemison. Again, I'm Michael Sinatra, Senior Project Manager with Development Review. The project before you this evening is 2 H Street in South Boston. We are seeking an 80B large project review approval for this project. This project was previously approved back in 2012. It's back before us with a notice of project change just due to a lapse of time. The MPC proposal is exactly the same as what was approved back in 2012. It's an as-of-right project with the same unit mix of 127 rentals, same number of parking spaces of 152, and 127 bike spaces, and the same dimensions, 133,000 gross square feet of floor area, FAR of 2.02, and 3 stories in height, as well as 2,900 square feet of retail. However, the only difference in this case is the proponent has agreed to voluntarily provide income-restricted units. 13% of the units will be at workforce levels of between 100 and 120% AMI. I'll now turn it over to the development team to run through their presentation, and we'd be happy to take any questions after the conclusion. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Director Jemison, Secretary Polhemus, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. With me today is Peter Zagorianakis from H Street Associates LLC, who is the proponent and project developer. As Mike mentioned, this is an NPC for a project originally approved years ago by this board or a previous version of this board. It's an as-of-right project under the zoning code. The only change today is the addition of that voluntary affordable component of 16 affordable rental units on site. Otherwise, this project is shovel-ready, financed, and ready for construction. We'd like to thank BPDA staff, Mike and his staff, as well as the South Boston elected delegation and community for their continued input on the project. And I will toss it over to Peter to very quickly go through a brief presentation. Thank you. Peter, all yours.
Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. Sorry.
Next slide. I want to thank the board and the BRA for all their assistance here. This project is located, it's a 60,000 square foot block. It's got roads on all 4 sides, East First, 8th Street, 2nd, and Vicksburg. And it's the transition between the residential, South Boston residential neighborhood and the industrial side of East First Street. Next slide. On industrial side, we have Co-op and United Rental across from us. And on the residential side, we have anywhere from 3 to 6-story residential buildings. Many of them are brand new buildings. Next slide, please. We have 127 units mixed of 1s, 2s, and 3s with a mixture of 16 affordable units. We have 152 parking spaces. We have 132 bike spaces. In addition to that, we have 42 guest bike spaces. And we just added a blue bike station on East First Street. Next slide. We've already been through PIC plan in most of the BRA process. We will have to revise our PIC plan because we just added a bike station to East First Street. But all the sidewalks now are working with the new Boston City sidewalk codes. So they're all 5-foot walkable, accessible sidewalks with trees and bike racks on the sidewalks. Next slide, please. These are the elevations. We are actually a 3-story building from East 2nd Street and a 4-story building from East 1st Street. We have retail along East 1st Street which activates the street. But we tried to we stayed within the zoning code, the new zoning code, Article 68, way back then. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We are a masonry building with metal on the third and on our bays. Our design actually has a courtyard on East 2nd Street to break up the massing of the building. Next slide, please. We also have the same kind of 2nd-story courtyard on East 1st Street, again, to break up the massing of the building. That's the retail level along East 1st Street. Most of the units also have outdoor space, balconies, or are here to most of the units. Next slide, please. This is again the activation of the retail along East 1st Street. Our parking garage entrance is along East 1st Street. It is an underground garage that also has 25% is EV rated for parking or wired for EV, and the rest of it is actually the conduit will be put in, so 100% could be EV. We also, in this building, we have passive house certification, so we will be a passive house building. Next slide, please. This is the view from the corner of East 2nd down H Street. We have entrances on East 2nd Street, H Street, Vicksburg Street, and East 1st Street. Next slide, please. This is our roof. We have a solar array. It's about 220K solar array. We are also all electric and are actually approaching net carbon zero. The only thing we would have to do is purchase the electricity from a renewable source. And then we have we have a green roof with individual decks on it. So there's no big deck area. They're divided into 8 by 10, 10 by 10 deck areas on the roof, which are within our green roof. Next slide, please. And this is just a summary of where we started. I'd like to open it up for questions at this time.
Great. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair. Peter, did you select a general contractor yet?
We do our own contracting, Mike.
Okay.
We have been for years. So we're the general on the site.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, one other question, Pete. The brick, masonry, is it real brick or is it that laminate?
No, real brick.
Yeah.
All right. And last call for questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye now.
Okay, so let's squeeze in one more. Item number 23, request authorization to issue a determination pursuant to Article 80, Section 80A-6 of the Boston Zoning Code in connection with the notice of project change filed by DIV Black Falcon LLC on April 4th, 2023. For the 88 Black Falcon Avenue project in the South Boston waterfront neighborhood of Boston. Issue partial certifications of compliance under Section 80B-6 of this code upon successful completion of the Article 80 review process for the development for the proposed project as modified by the NPC and execute and deliver a development impact project agreement, a cooperation agreement, and take any related actions. Erin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jemison, and Secretary Paul Hemus. My name is Erin Skibbins, and I'm a project assistant in development review. The proposal before you is a notice of project change for the previously approved 88 Black Falcon Avenue project located in South Boston waterfront in the Marine Industrial Park. 88 Black Falcon was originally board approved in May of 2021. The previously approved project comprised the construction of a vertical addition of 327,600 gross floor area for lab, research and development, and office use directly atop of the existing 3-story building, which is approximately 350,000 square feet, as well as additional changes to the project site, which includes demolition and reconstruction of the existing parking ramp, additional decking for parking to accommodate up to 174 new spaces, the redesign and reconstruction of the dry dock and Black Falcon Avenue intersection, and other site improvements. The MPC filed with the BPDA on April 4th, 2023, proposes to break up the project into 2 phases, along with a rehabilitation element of the existing building. Phase 1 would comprise the rehab of the existing building, as well as the reconstruction of the parking ramp, the redesign of the dry dock, Black Falcon intersection, and other site improvements within the existing building. Between approximately 45 to 135,000 square feet would be renovated to accommodate lab or research and development uses. Phase 2 would comprise the construction of the previously approved vertical addition, expansion of the public rooftop overlook, and expansion of the existing parking deck. The BPDA public comment period was open from April 4th to May 5th. An IAG meeting was held with the Marine Park Business Association, which serves as the de facto IAG for Article 80 projects in the Marine Park, after which the association submitted a letter of support. Before I turn it over to Mike Cantalupa and Chris Chandor from the development team to begin their presentation, I want to say thank you to the members of the public, elected officials, and city agencies who helped review this notice of project change. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson, Secretary Bohemus. My name is Chris Chandor, and I'm Senior Vice President of Development with the Davis Companies. I'm joined by Mike Cantalupa, who is our Chief Development Officer, and I believe members of Massport are probably on as well. This is the Massport ground lease. We're here before you today, as Erin has already summarized, to discuss a notice of project change for 88 Black Falcon. The image that you see here is the project that was previously approved in May of 2021. And as Erin summarized, there are no changes to the proposed full project when completed. We are simply here to discuss some phasing, and the reasons for that I will get to in a moment. Next slide, please. This is a view of the project looking back towards the skyline of Boston. As you can see, we're at the end of the pier. We're the furthest point in the Marine Park. The cruise terminal is behind us, as well as IDB. You can see the 4 silos there of coastal cement in the immediate background as well. This is a water-dependent industrial site. The cruise terminal also docks cruise ships here at 88 Black Falcon during peak season. Next slide, please. Another view now from the southwest. The project there is outlined in red. We do have a small easement agreement with the EDIC to allow trucks to get to our loading docks in the back of the property. Next slide, please. So why are we here for a notice of project change? I've brought up some economic data to share with you. We are still 100% a believer in this project. However, as you are sure well aware, there have been some changes in the life science market over the past year or so. As we just quickly scale down some of these stats, 15 months ago, there were almost 4 million square feet of tenants in the market. Today, that has dropped significantly to just over 1 million square feet of tenant demand. Vacancy is actually still reasonably low, but availability continues to increase, availability being a factor of projects being delivered that have not been leased yet. Absorption has slowed. Rents are holding relatively steady. We think they have not been growing as rapidly as they were in 2020 and 2021. And really, the big number there is the supply pipeline, which has continued to grow from 15 million square feet in the end of 2021 to over 16 million square feet today. If you look back up at the number of tenants in the market, the amount of time it would take to absorb all that new space coming to market has increased 4-fold at this point. Construction costs did not help us. This cost of this project has grown. This is just core shell renovation costs. This is not total project cost, by approximately $100 a square foot.
Availability of capital for life science tenants has dropped. That's reflected in the NASDAQ Biotechnology Index there. And lastly, interest rates on the 10-year Treasury have made financing much harder to come by for a project of this magnitude. Next slide, please. This is our existing site plan, which is really in here just for reference. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed site plan in phase 1, and what's nice about this is it's really substantially the same as the proposed site plan for the full build. We are doing all of the site improvements, the mitigation associated with this project in phase 1. The major improvement being the realignment of the Black Falcon Ave, Dry Dock Ave intersection and all associated improvements there. This is a big benefit for Massport. The parking lot in between our parcel and the Flynn Cruiseport to the plan left is being enlarged by over 50%. This is a major staging area for Massport on days when multiple cruise ships are in port. We'll be tearing down the existing ramp and building a new one, nestling it into the side of the building, creating some ADA accessible bathrooms underneath the ramp for the public and passengers getting on and off cruise ships, some storage area for Massport there. We're creating a new traffic control tower for Coastal Cement, our adjacent water-dependent industrial user. There will be an improved MBTA Silver Line bus stop, fully ADA accessible access up into our building, which does not exist today. When a third cruise ship is in town, it's very difficult for folks to get into this building. They have to walk up the ramp. Next slide, please. The changes in this are subtle. This would be the full build out. As you can see, there's been no change to the Black Falcon Ave, Dry Dock Ave intersection. What has changed would be the additional parking that's necessary to create, to support the expansion on floors 4 through 7. The only other change to the site in phase 2 would be the new elevator towers on the south side that are barely visible on the site plan. One last thing I would call your attention to at plan right, the public overlook deck. Obviously, if we're not building the full parking deck extension, we cannot build 100% of the overlook deck. We will build as much of the overlook deck in phase 1 as we can, approximately 1,750 square feet. The balance of that would be delivered in phase 2. Next slide, please. This is just a comparison of the existing to proposed. Next slide, please. These are renderings of the building pretty much as it exists today, and the phase 1 renovations would not make any significant changes to these elevations. Next slide, please. These are the elevations for the full build out in phase 2, and again, these elevations are consistent with what was shown and approved in May of 2021. Next slide, please. This is a rendering looking from towards the east. You can see a cruise ship there tied up outside of our building. It really does look like that sometimes. All of the intersection improvements have been completed in the foreground. Only the building addition on the top has not been completed in phase 1. Next slide, please. And in this iteration, you can see the previously approved 4-story addition has been constructed and the parking deck expansion has been constructed. I believe that's it. Next slide, please. Yep, just some evolved design renderings. No changes there. That's it. Thank you. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Just a small question. Fish cleaning station?
Yes, there is a fish cleaning station at the end of the pier today. We will be improving that. And the striped bass fishing can often be quite good at the end of the pier. I can tell you I've caught fish out there.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Chair, before we take a vote, Caitlin Stapleton is from Councilor Murphy's office, and I just wanted to see if she wanted to testify on this item. She's her hand up. Okay. Caitlin, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, this is actually Councilor Murphy on my phone, so I'm not sure why I'm coming up as Caitlin Stapleton, because I'm on my phone, not a laptop. But no, I just was, if you are having panelists, because I'm on for a little while now, just wanted to be lifted up. But
Sure.
Happy to
Yes.
listen in. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll see
Sure.
how I can change my name. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, did we have any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it?
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Hansmark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. So we've hit 5:30. So what we're going to do is just take a 5-minute break before we kick off our public hearings. So let's pause and resume back at 5:36 or so. Okay, thank you. Going on to item 24, this is a public hearing. So simultaneous Vietnamese interpretation is being provided for this meeting using the language interpretation function within Zoom. We ask that you be patient in case of any technical issues. Language interpretation will not be enabled until instructions on how to access interpretation have been interpreted into Vietnamese. Once interpretation has been enabled, a globe icon will appear. A reminder to all that are speaking today, we ask that everyone speak slowly for the interpreters. If you're speaking too quickly, I may interrupt you and ask you to speak slower. Thank you. To enable interpretation for Vietnamese, please click on the globe icon on the bottom of your screen and by selecting Vietnamese for Vietnamese. Also, you must mute original audio. New, would you please kindly interpret the instructions I just gave?
Sure. Xin chào quý vị, chào mừng quý vị đã tham gia buổi họp vào tối hôm nay. Thì cuộc họp tối nay có hỗ trợ thông dịch sang tiếng Việt bằng cách sử dụng chức năng thông dịch ngôn ngữ trong hệ thống của Zoom. Chúng tôi yêu cầu quý vị vui lòng kiên nhẫn trong trường hợp có bất kỳ vấn đề kỹ thuật nào xảy ra. Dịch vụ thông dịch ngôn ngữ sẽ không được kích hoạt cho đến khi các hướng dẫn về cách truy cập dịch vụ đã được thông dịch sang tiếng Việt. Sau khi dịch vụ thông dịch đã được bật lên, biểu tượng hình quả địa cầu sẽ xuất hiện. Một lời nhắc nhở cho tất cả những người đang phát biểu của ngày hôm nay là chúng tôi yêu cầu mọi người nói chậm lại cho thông dịch viên có thể nắm được nội dung chính cần thông dịch. Nếu người phát biểu nói quá nhanh, tôi có thể ngắt lời bạn và yêu cầu bạn nói chậm lại. Xin cảm ơn. Và để bật dịch vụ thông dịch sang tiếng Việt, quý vị vui lòng nhấp vào biểu tượng quả địa cầu ở cuối màn hình và chọn tiếng Việt. Ngoài ra, quý vị cũng cần phải tắt âm thanh gốc của mình. Xin cảm ơn. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And Nisha, would you now please activate the interpretation? I'm just going to give folks a bit to join the language channels. Okay, as you can see, the globe icon is there, and you can select Vietnamese for Vietnamese interpretation. So if you're having any difficulty activating interpretation, please call the phone number on the screen. Please take note of the phone number on the screen. If you have any difficulties later in the meeting, you may call that number. The project presentation has been translated into Vietnamese and is available on the BPDA website at bostonplans.org/about-us/BPDA-board/meetings. Please take note of the website address on the screen to enable the translated project presentation. This is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority, doing business as the Boston Planning and Development Agency, being held in conformance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 121A and Chapter 652 of the Acts of 1960 and Article 80 of the Boston Zoning Code to consider the proposed project at 900 Morrissey Boulevard in Dorchester, a neighborhood of Boston. This hearing was duly advertised on April 28th in the Boston Herald. This is a BPDA hearing on a proposed petition by the agency. Staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, anyone who wishes to testify about the proposed project will be afforded an opportunity. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. So if you're planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Click on the hand icon on the Zoom control panel, and this will signal to the staff that you would like to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you are calling into the meeting and would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to speak. You must unmute your microphone and your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain, and at that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. And Mr. Stephen Harvey will now begin the presentation. Stephen.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Jamison. My name is Stephen Harvey, and I'm a Senior Project Manager at the BPDA, and I want to thank you for your time today. The project I bring before you today is 900 Marcy Boulevard, located in the Port Norfolk neighborhood of Dorchester. On November 4th, 2022, the Boston Planning and Development Agency received a small project review application from the proponent. The proponent is proposing to renovate an existing hotel into a residential building with up to 99 compact rental studio units. The 99 compact rental studio units will be income restricted to individuals with incomes at or below 30% of area median income. The proposed project will also have approximately 3,451 square feet of shared space, up to 33 surface level parking spaces, as well as adequate bike storage. On December 7th, 2022, and May 1st, 2022, May 1st, 2023, I held virtual public meetings for the project. Both virtual public meetings were well attended. The virtual public meetings were advertised in the local paper and via email. The meeting was advertised in the local paper, posted on the BPDA's webpage, and a notification was emailed to all subscribers of the BPDA's Dorchester Neighborhood Update List. The BPDA comment period ended for the project on January 6, 2023. Lastly, the proponent submitted a 121A project application for the proposal on March 10, 2023. Shortly, I will pass it over to Astrid. Astrid is the planner for this section of Dorchester. Astrid will touch on the planning context for this project. Once Astrid has completed her slides, the development team will present the project presentation. Once the presentation is complete, Andrew Waxman, Linda Downey, Jen Schultz, and David Tanner, and I will answer any questions put forward by the board. Again, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polhemus, Director Jemison, and members of the board. My name is Astrid Walker-Stewart, and I am the neighborhood planner covering South Dorchester. The proposed project is not located within the boundaries of a recent planning initiative. Instead, BPDA planning staff considered the neighborhood context, Imagine Boston 2030, Housing a Changing City, and the zoning code to review the project. The project is located in the Coastal Flood Resilience Overlay District and complies with the overlay district's requirements. The project is consistent with the City of Boston's goals of providing affordable housing for Bostonians, supporting mixed-income communities, and increasing access to opportunity through the project's supportive services. Additionally, the project is in line with the overarching theme of Housing a Changing City, of protecting households and individuals most at risk. We, the BPDA planning staff, worked with the proponent to significantly improve the streetscape, pedestrian experience, and open space on the site. In particular, the collaborative effort led to a safer and more appealing pedestrian circulation path through a reduction of curb cuts, extended and enlarged sidewalks, and additional open space for programming and plantings. Additionally, staff worked with the proponent to rebuild the sidewalk along Conley Street, improving the project's connection to neighboring sites and waterfront assets. Now, I will now turn over the presentation to the proponent team to present the project in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Astrid. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Director Jemison. Thank you, members of the BPDA board. Before I proceed, I just want to make sure Linda Downey from Pine Street Inn was going to be part of this presentation, and I don't see her yet as a presenter. So if she could be made a presenter, that would be great. Otherwise, I can go through all of our slides.
I don't see Linda as an attendee. She may be logged in under a different name, but.
Okay. Okay, I'll proceed. Again, thank you all for having us. I'm Andy Waxman from the Community Builders. We're one of the proponents of this project at 900 Marcy. Also, the Pine Street Inn is our partner on this project. We're both two long-time Boston-based nonprofit organizations with deep experience in affordable housing of a variety of types. At the Community Builders, where I work, we will be the owner, manager, and developer of the property. And the Pine Street Inn, who is really the gold standard of working with chronically homeless individuals, will be providing services to the individuals who would be the tenants of the property. Go to the next slide, please. So our vision, to put it more simply even than is on the slide, is to combine permanent housing with a high level of support services to create a more stable situation for people moving out of homelessness. And it's really that combination of permanent housing and support services, which is a really powerful combination, which a variety of studies have shown really improves the outcomes for the individuals who are moving out of chronic homelessness. And improves their lives in a number of different ways. So we're really happy to do that here at the site, to propose that. We are also, Pine Street and the community builders are doing a similar development in Jamaica Plain, which the BPDA board approved about 3 years ago. And so we're happy to continue that here. Again, as others have stated, the idea is to have 99 permanent studio apartments, 24/7 on-site community, with property management, resident amenities, and support services. Next slide, please. So Lindy could talk about this part much better than me, but as the Pine Street will be providing the services at the property, but as you can see, there's going to be a combination of case management, evening and overnight staffing, behavioral health, and resident engagement, and a large part of the Pine Street Inn staff has that expertise and will be providing that, and really, again, in combination with the permanent housing, it really creates really positive outcomes. The next slide is about the population. So, we've had, as folks I'm sure have seen, there's been a bunch of opposition that's come out about the project, and we've really tried to listen to that opposition and try to adjust the project in a variety of ways. The biggest important way is that we've committed to having a senior preference on the project. So even though right now in Pine Street Inn, which has 850 or so apartments just like this in many parts of the city, and the average age of the tenants are 57, at this project we've committed to have a senior preference where we would first go through the full list of folks who are 62 and older who are chronically homeless, and only after that, if we exhaust that list, and there are at least 250 folks on that list who are 62 and older, then we would go to only after that, if we happen to have additional spots, would we go to a younger chronically homeless population. And again, these are very low income individuals. You can see the income levels that is typical in Pine Street housing on the slide. So the next slide shows the community process. As Stephen talked about, we went through the typical small project review process with well-attended meetings. But even before that, at least 3 months before that, we started to have our own community process, because we really wanted to make sure we were being transparent with the neighborhood and talking to folks and answering questions that folks had. So we had 2 community meetings, one in person, one on Zoom. Over 200 plus people came to meetings, and so very well attended, and as well as we attended a number of community association meetings and meetings with a variety of other stakeholders. And it's important to state that while we, of course, have had some opposition to the project, there's also been a tremendous amount of support as well. At the BPDA meeting that was held last week, the last official Article 80 meeting, more folks spoke out in favor than spoke out against. And as I'm sure the board members have seen the packet of information, and there was a very large number of letters and emails sent, and upwards of 250 people spoke in favor of the project. So next I want to just go into the specifics of the property. So this is an aerial view of the site. You can see where the current Comfort Inn is. The site is surrounded by red line tracks, Morrissey Boulevard itself, and while it is near residential neighborhoods, the immediate abutters are all commercial businesses. Next, there are some pictures of the existing exterior of the site, and the next slide shows some pictures of the existing interior of the site. The next slide. This is a slide of what we propose to do for the ground floor. So We had originally, another form of responding to the neighborhood was to reduce the number of apartments that we're proposing. Currently, there are 131 hotel rooms in the building, and we had originally proposed around 110, and now we have reduced that to 99. So there are currently some hotel rooms on the ground floor. We plan to fully renovate the ground floor. You can see that there's a security desk. There's one entrance into and out of the building. Security, we know, is a large concern for folks. And so we also have 24/7 security and a security desk. And so everybody who enters the building will have to go check in with the security desk. If you go to the left, you can see that we have property management space. So the community builders, we will have property management staff on site. And so there's office space and meeting room space for property management. Next, the pinkest color shows the common areas. So the apartments, which I'll show on the next slide, are small studio apartments. So it's important for us to have common area space for all the residents to gather together, or just gather not in their own apartments. And then on the far left is social service space. So again, this is where Pine Street Inn will be have their case management staff to have their offices and meeting space with residents and place for folks to gather there as well. And on the right side is more sort of back of the house, bike storage and maintenance storage and those kind of things. The next slide shows what the typical studio apartment will look like. So, one of the things that really attracted us to this site and to this building is that we really can do an economical renovation of the building in order to create studio apartments. The hotel rooms match very well with the ideal size for the Pine Street Inn type of housing that they have for chronically homeless individuals. The main renovation that we're doing in the units is to add kitchenettes. So every apartment will have its own kitchenette, its own bathroom. There's certainly been some confusion. Some people have understood that what we're proposing is shelter space. This is not at all a shelter. It's permanent supportive housing. Again, everybody will have their own kitchen and bathroom. People will sign leases. There's a very involved tenant selection process and screening process, including CORI and SORI reports. So this is permanent supportive housing. It is not shelter at all. And you can see this is the kind of studio apartments that will be on the upper floors, but we're also having common area space on many of the upper floors where folks can gather outside of their apartments. And lastly, we wanted to show what we're proposing for the overall site. This is a population that is incredibly rare for anybody coming out of chronic homelessness to have a car. So we are able to reduce the amount of parking spaces on the site. Is currently, as is appropriate for a hotel, a lot of parking for in and out folks that are coming for one night or wherever long their stay is, but we're able to reduce that. Certainly there's still enough spaces for staff and visitors to be there, but we're improving green space in a number of ways. As folks mentioned earlier, there are currently 3 curb cuts to the site, 2 on Marcy Boulevard, 1 on Conley Street, and working with the BPDA, we are on board with and now propose to get rid of both of the curb cuts on Marcy Boulevard, and so all the traffic will come in and out off Conley Street, and it makes for a much better driving and pedestrian experience. We're also creating a bunch of green space, adding trees. You can see there's an open area setback, a healthy amount from Marcy Boulevard, but it was still a good place for residents to rest or just hang out in a green space on the site. We also, again, taking security seriously. We are proposing fences on the right and the left of the building to prevent any residents or non-residents from doing anything behind the building, though there will be lighting and again, 24-hour security. And another improvement that we're doing is to improve the sidewalk on Conley Street. So for all of the site, it's a better experience for everybody. So just to wrap it up, again, we have been out in the community talking about this project for a long time, trying to respond to much of the concerns, added a senior preference in response to concerns, reduced the number of apartments, and we really feel like this permanent supportive housing, so again, combining housing with support services is a really strong positive addition to the neighborhood and to the city, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So this is a public hearing, so before we go to the folks who've raised their hands, I believe there are some elected officials that would like to give some comments.
So let's start with Councillor Baker.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you see and hear me?
Yep.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Councilor Frank Baker from District 3. I'm here in opposition of this project and has this is in opposition to Pine Tree. Andy Waxman had mentioned there was a meeting with 200 people. That meeting was closer to 500 or 600 people, and nearly every person there did not want this. I'm standing with my community on this one. I also think that it's not a real good area for people that are probably not the most mobile. You've got a 6-lane highway in front of you, and you have train tracks in the back. And one of my big concerns is I don't have surety from the city as the mass and cast problem ripples out and it's all over my neighborhood now. I don't have surety that type of that the people that are going to be leaving the roundhouse, because the roundhouse has been found to not be a strategy that works, they're going to end that lease in July. I'm not sure that type of person isn't coming over to the Comfort in a year or so. So for those reasons and some more that I won't get into, I'm in opposition to this project. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Senator Collins, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Chair Rojas, members of the board, and Director Jemison. I'm here to speak this evening after receiving a lot of feedback on 900 Morrissey. Clearly, we have a problem, a crisis in the city that we have to respond to in the state. But I think the issue is how. And the community has been overwhelmingly expressed opposition to this. I can say that for sure, both off the feedback I've received in the flesh into my office. And not because the people who aren't compassionate or people of goodwill, they have legitimate concerns. And we see that borne out in statistics. And some of those are from facilities or programs that have been used by proponents as the model. Ramada Inn around the corner has been an incredible nuisance, but 123 Hamilton Street had 120 calls for 40 units last year for BPD. Those are just blatant statistics. So that's the model. So it's a well-built building, and I know there's a plan and a commitment to being a little bit more robust as it relates to the wraparound services, but those are calls that were made by the public that said, you know, we need you here. So I have a big concern about that being the model. There's the need for sure, but there's nowhere in the Good Samaritan parable that says you must be attacked, and that's what people are afraid of. Yes, we see it in the aggravated assault numbers that have gone up. But down in Massive Cash just last week myself, it's terrible what's happening. And the work that's getting done by the BMC officials down there is great. They're doing everything they can. I know Pine Street, when they ran it before at the Roundhouse, the combination is required. That's for sure. You know, Pine Street does housing well, BMC does healthcare well. It's hard to do the other well without that support. But I do think it's unfair to categorize the opposition to this proposal as illegitimate and small. I heard the proponents say that, you know, that there was a lot of support. You know, I did hear from some, but overwhelmingly against. So that has to be said. But I think we're also offering a false choice. I think, you know, all to say we need to do something. So after some investigation and research, my team came upon a study that we shared through the BPDA before the meeting that should be shared with the board, done by the MIT's Naval Construction and Marine Engineering Program that investigated the feasibility of converting marine assets into affordable housing. The study was used Boston as the model because of its location and the requirements that it met, including the challenge that it was facing in the city. The Navy commissioned that because of the public need. So I just want to and by saying, I would like to request that this be tabled until the board can review that as an alternative, because we're talking about a proposal that has less than 100 units. The need's much more significant than that. And the location is a difficult one and a problematic one for the community that saw, events take place, including, unfortunately, an individual who was sleeping on a elementary school cafeteria table across the street. And people walk into school. It's a hard thing to get excited about when you know that without a track record that we can rely on yet, what that can bring. So that's what I'm asking. I'd ask that the board consider that that information in front of you as alternatives to, thrusting into communities that quite frankly aren't and shouldn't have to bear the burden of what's going to ultimately happen. We just know it. It's impossible to bat 1,000 on this. So that's my request, is that the board table this decision tonight until they can take a look at the proposal done by MIT as an alternative to affordable housing.
Thank you, Senator. Councilor Murphy, are you still on? Okay, I'm going to continue with public comment. John Lyons, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me talk. My name is John Lyons. I live at 176 Walnut Street. That's in the Port Norfolk neighborhood. I'm president of the Civic Association. I've personally attended every one of these public meetings, both in person and online. I can tell you that I am certain that there's no more than one or two people in the directly affected area of this proposal who actually were in support, that all the persons who spoke in support live remotely at least a mile or more from the site, and many actually identified themselves as having some involvement with either the housing or addiction treatment business/community, some of whom actually identified themselves as employees of these entities. So I think it's unfair to say that there has been widespread support. There might be widespread support, but it doesn't come from the community in which this proposal is located. The directly immediate abutters may in fact be commercial uses, but within 300 feet and within several blocks, there are multiple residential developments, and there's a growing residential community on the directly adjacent Norwood Street, including a recently permitted 52-unit residential project at the opposite end of that street. Directly across Morrissey Boulevard, there's a multiple-unit residential project, and I've heard informally that a number of those residents are concerned about that, and in fact, they did not get notice about this process. My primary concern here is that the classification of this project from the beginning has been an innocuous sounding residential with office space, but in what other residential proposal do you ever see offices which are inextricably part of the operation of the residential unit? And the proponent tonight even went to great lengths to provide assurance that these tenants are somehow going to be controlled. So it really sounds to me and to everyone else that this is a shelter going by another name. It at least is a group home, and it's a forbidden use, not a commercial use. There are 5 articles.
I'm sorry, sir, your 2 minutes is up. I've got to go to the next person.
10 seconds more?
10 seconds.
There are 5 Article 80 projects within a half mile of this site. It strikes me that the BPDA has been engaged in a policy of rezoning this entire district without following the process set forth in the Enabling Act. And I too would ask that this at least be temporarily tabled until we do proper planning for this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Martinelli, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. My name is Lori Martinelli. I live in Adams Village. I'm a longtime resident of
Dorchester, and I am a strong supporter of this project for several reasons, which I will list. Converting hotels to affordable supportive houses makes all the sense in the world. Economically, it makes sense. We've got two good partners, the community builders and Pine Street Inn. And the supportive housing piece, I don't think we should really ignore that. That combined with permanent housing, helping people with mental health issues, medication management, diet, elderly people who, want to be able to maintain their independence. This is all the services that will be provided by the Pine Street Inn staff. And I remember when I went to one of the first meetings this last fall at the Murphy School, there was a security person from Pine Street Inn talking about the security that's going to be in place. But he said something that struck me. He goes, really, the security is designed to protect the people inside the building, because the people inside the building are very vulnerable, elderly, and frail. So I think that this is a very good project. It's a good location, and I think it's important that we have more affordable housing in Boston. I work at the Boston Medical Center in the housing field, and I know the dire situation in all of our neighborhoods and in Boston and this entire state, actually, but particularly in Boston. So I am a strong supporter of this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter Meacham, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Peter Meacham. I am a resident of Dorchester. I am from this community, and I do want to support this project and for more permanent supportive housing projects like this across the city. The most democratic approach we can take as a city is to prioritize the needs of our neighbors who will be most impacted by this project. People experiencing homelessness in Boston deserve the safety, comfort, and stability of a home, especially through projects like this that prioritize housing for seniors and for people with disabilities, and will provide counselors and case managers whose job is to support and protect the long-term health and stabilization of their residents. Approving this project will change the lives for the better of 99 of my neighbors, of your neighbors, and of our neighbors. I ask you to consider their health and well-being in your decision. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Betsy Drynan, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Betsy Drynan. I live on Pleasant Street in Dorchester. Been here for about 35 years, and I'm strongly in support of this proposal, this project. I am unhappy with the characterization of the programs from our city councilors and state senator that we're looking at amassing cast and fusion onto Morrissey Boulevard. That's so far from the truth. This is not the same kind of program. This is a program where the people will be well vetted, well supported, and what I understand from some of the meetings I went to, I think it was around 65% of the people are already in these facilities within the Dorchester area, but they're triple deckers or something like that, and there's no elevator. So this is really about providing access for people who are already in care and frail elders. I just want to quickly say, we've fought this battle before. On Pleasant Street, Pine Street runs a facility there, and when they came to the civic associations, there was enormous opposition. People were out of their minds about this, that it was going to be the worst thing in the world. It's by the Boys and Girls Club, it's by the Everett School, etc. That program has been there, I think probably 12, 14 years now. There has not been any problems that I am aware of. And in fact, most of the time, it's one of the better maintained properties on that end of Pleasant Street. I'm strongly in support of this program, and I hope that you will vote it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie McCauley, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jamie. I'm a resident on Victory Road in District 3, represented by Councilor Baker. I am not aligned with Councillor Baker on this matter. I'm very much so in support of this. I'm also an employee of Pine Street Inn, and I know there's been some concern that people are feeling like a lot of the support they're hearing is from people that are already employed in homeless services, and like that feels sketchy. But I think that's really important because it speaks to the fact that those of us who are doing work with these individuals every day, who know the kind of behaviors that people exhibit, their histories, everything that people have raised as like a concern. Those of us that are exposed to that every day are the most comfortable with living in community with these individuals. I think that speaks volume about the positive impact that a project like this would have on the community and the lives of the people that would live in this residence. I also want to mention, I know that people have expressed concerns with there being an increase in visible homelessness in the community. I live in the community, I shop at that Stop and Shop, I'm in the area, and I know there are a lot of people that we can see that are staying outside. Those are our neighbors. They're already in the community. The fact that we're talking about that means that they're already in the community. If you take time to chat with the people that are panhandling at the intersections, that are panhandling at CVS, and understand those are folks that are looking for housing and are looking for services, and we don't have that available in the immediate community right now. And so when we're talking about disseminating an area like Masscast, it's because there's not enough resources available in other geographic areas in the city of Boston, and specifically in this part of Dorchester. So I actually think a project like this, where they've mentioned having like resources available on site, would cause there to be fewer people that are visible, that are sleeping in places that people aren't meant to be sleeping because they would be there. So in short, my main point is that the people that would be housed in this project are already our neighbors. They're already in the neighborhood. This would just bring them inside. Thank you.
Thank you. Bing Broderick, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. My name is Bing Broderick, and I live on Pleasant Street, and I'd like to speak in favor of this project and speak to Pine Street's track record. 20 years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, Betsy, that the house burned on Pleasant Street, and it was a 6-unit house. And Pine Street rebuilt the house beautifully, and it has been a model. It's on my block, and Pine Street has been responsive about anything that needs to be done, been better than most of my neighbors, and I just want to raise that at this time because I think it's important. Pine Street has an excellent track record in this department. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward Crowley, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I actually want to talk about, I was involved with the Fields Corner Civic Association years ago, and we worked with Pine Street for units on Park Street and never had problems there. Talking about the Pleasant Street project, I worked with Pine Street to go to the Columbia Savin Hill meeting and speak in favor of that project also because of the success of the Park Street projects that we had already completed with Pine Street. But going to the Comfort Inn, again, I'm in support, and a lot of things in the neighborhood people have said about why not is Stop and Shop right across the street, Lampett's, all accessible by the overpass as a safety to get to those shopping areas. The same thing for Dunkin' Donuts. And access to walk down to the beach. And again, we're talking about elderly folks that would age in place in this building. Again, an existing hotel to be converted at less of a cost than to build a new building. And again, who else but Pine Street to take care of our homeless? And one other thing is the situation at the Ramada Inn has really put a strain in the neighborhood, but those folks were not serviced there. Pine Street will be servicing the people in their building. For all those reasons, this makes sense to do this property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Molly Ryan, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I have a baby in the background.
Yes, we can
move
hear
away
you.
from the crying baby. My name is Molly. I live in the neighborhood. I'm also on Victory Road. I'm absolutely in support of this project. I walk by this location multiple times a week to get to Tenian Beach and to the Harbor Walk. I'm excited to hear about the modifications to the curb cut. I think that would be great for pedestrians. And the upgrades to the sidewalk, both for myself and for anybody else who's trying to access Tenian. I think that's excellent. I think, as we all know, housing is a massive crisis in this city, in this state, in this region. I think tabling this is absolutely the wrong idea. If anything, we need to act with more urgency than we are now. Again, I think that adapting this particular property for the proposed use is excellent. I think it adds to the character of the neighborhood. Frankly, I don't really care about a hotel in my neighborhood, but having permanent supportive housing for elders and older adults that need it, that sounds amazing to me. I have a young child. If there are opportunities for us to volunteer and be in that space, I would absolutely look to do that. Again, I think it adds to the neighborhood, and I think it's an absolutely welcome addition and very much needed, and I fully support. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Nagy Koechlin, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks. Carl Nagy Kirschlin. I live at 52 Caruth Street in Dorchester, and I also want to speak in favor of the project. Everyone knows we have a homelessness crisis here in Boston and nationally, which we all really should be ashamed of and all should be redoubling our efforts to address. And so I think we all need to take responsibility for welcoming projects of this sort into our communities, particularly such well thought out projects that have gone vetted through a community process, that have found compromise around certain issues that came up during the community process, including the age restriction, reducing the number of units, improving the site. This is really going to be a more attractive building, a more attractive, and a better neighbor than the current use. And in the process, really is going to make a dent in the homeless crisis. And I want to just kind of reiterate the point. I mean, I understand people's concerns about people sleeping in schoolyards or on cafeteria tables, but it seems pretty clear that those people wouldn't be doing that if they had a studio apartment at this new project. So I think we really need to not only support this project, but embrace it and get ready to welcome our new neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Chow, you can unmute yourself. Or Chu.
Thanks. Yeah, Carolyn Chu, also a resident of Dorchester, District 3, a mile or less from the project site, and also a member of Dorchester Not For Sale, a local neighborhood group. And I just wanted to speak also in support of this project. I think, as Molly, Ryan, and others said earlier, we need to act with urgency around affordable housing. There is a lot of development coming rapidly to our neighborhood, and we have a lot of concerns about that. But we know that we need truly affordable housing, and we need all of our neighbors, including our unhoused neighbors, to be housed. And so I welcome this project, and I'm excited about what it's bringing to the neighborhood in the midst of Morrissey Boulevard turning into the next seaport. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Pierce, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so my name is Becky Pierce, and I also strongly support this project, and for all the reasons other people have said, including primarily the desperate need for affordable housing for people coming out of homelessness or recently homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. And I think the talk of mass and caste, is by our elected officials is completely contrary to the truth, because the area will be safer when people who are homeless and struggling with And even if they are people who are struggling with addiction and other problems, if they get the services they need, and this has been shown time again to be the way to help these people get on with their lives and not be a burden on society or a risk to anybody's safety. So I would also like to say that I'm a retired self-employed carpenter, not a social worker, and that I'm also a member of Dorchester Not For Sale. I frequently drive, bike, shop, and bowl in this immediate area. I was at bowling alley yesterday, right across the parking lot. And I think that with the sidewalk improvements and the green space that they're adding, this area will be more attractive and safer for everybody. And we need to all support this and build this project here and any other projects like this that we can, and that will be the solution to the Madison Cass problem. And the people that are suffering from all these problems of homelessness deserve our support. They're the most vulnerable people in our community. They're the ones that need housing that's under 30% of AMI, and I strongly support it and urge you to vote for it and pass it and get it constructed as fast as possible.
Thank you. Richard Conway, you can unmute yourself. Richard Conway, you can unmute yourself. If you're having difficulty reaching us, you can dial 617-918-4254. Maria Lyons, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Maria Lyons. I live in Port Norfolk. I'm a mother and a teacher. The mission of Pine Street Inn is to take care of the homeless. The mission of most of the residents of this neighborhood is to raise their family safely. Why are children not considered most at risk by the city? There is a conflict here due to many unknowns. If we have to decide between the two missions, I have to vote for the children that live here, play in the parks, and go to school here. They should be the priority. At the Port Norfolk meeting, we were told by the Pine Street proponents that their future residents would be taken to clinics to receive their methadone. In other words, some residents will be current or former drug addicts. No one is talking about how many residents will be current or former addicts, drug or alcohol, or how high the relapse rate is. They will have supervision in the building, but not in the neighborhood. No one can control what happens, how they act, who they meet when unsupervised. 99 is a large group of people. We do not want an influx of behaviors in the neighborhood detrimental to children. These are legitimate concerns and not irrational fears. Dorchester is a big place. Most supporters I hear are not from direct neighborhoods. DePlancet, Port Norfolk, Clam Point, Cedar Grove are the neighborhoods that are most affected. There is no guarantee that homeless in the neighborhood would be housed in this project. Most likely not. I am disappointed with the process that gave only 2 days' notice for this meeting. For these reasons, I oppose this project. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Evan George, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. My name is Evan George. I've been a Dorchester resident for about 7 years. I'm also a member of the Dorchester Not For Sale Coalition, and I'm strongly in support of this project. I agree with the previous speaker that this is about safety and safety in our community. We have people who are experiencing homelessness who are sleeping on the streets where our children walk. We have people who are homeless who have to seek shelter in our parks. We can understand that reality, and we can deal with that in one of two ways. We can continue to do nothing, continue to allow only new development, which is focused on lab space, which is focused on luxury development, or we can use our existing housing stock to meet the needs of our community. People can be sleeping on the street, or we can house them appropriately and give them the services they need. I am very disheartened to hear my elected officials demonize seniors, demonize people who make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, which is where that 30% AMI roughly is. These are our neighbors, these are our community members, and we should not be afraid of them. And for those of you who are, the choices between letting them live on the street or using the housing stock that we need is the choice before you. So again, I am strongly in support of this project, and thank you for the BPDA for administering this hearing.
Thank you. Vincent Rocchio, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. My name is Vincent Rocchio, and I live 2 miles from this proposal. So I live off of Pleasant Street, and I am strongly supportive of this project. I sympathize with a lot of people here that it is communities like Dorchester that are asked to hold these kinds of projects. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of proposals for Beacon Hill. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of proposals for West Roxbury that I know of. Nonetheless, this community is in need of this kind of housing, and we are talking about 2 preeminent organizations in terms of affordable housing that are coming together on this project with a creative solution that will serve the community. And I also want to make 2 more points. That I do live a stone's throw from a Pine Street Inn project community. You would never know that it is a Pine Street Inn facility. That's how well it's run. The reputation of the community builders is also just sterling, if not a national model. So we're not talking about some slap together solution and we'll see what happens with the roll of the dice. Finally, I just want to reiterate the other point that this project represents an opportunity for school children, UMass, the school system, and UMass Boston to partake in volunteer experiences that will enrich all participants. I'm really aghast, like others, that this has been compared to Mass and Cass, that it's going to facilitate that kind of environment. And I would just strongly support that we move on this project and allow it to come through to completion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lori Hurlbaus, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Lori Hurlbaus. I'm a resident of Dorchester. I live less than a mile from the project. I'm not sure where those boundaries are drawn as to who's part of the community and who's not, and who's actually directly affected and who's not. But I live less than a mile from the project. I was born and raised here. This is my community. Some of the residents that will be living in this new project are from my community. I'm strongly in support. I'm more concerned about the unchecked luxury development that's happening in our city in the same area without the same concerns as have been raised for this project. We need housing in our community for a range of incomes that's truly affordable. The issue for me is not this project. I am concerned about community safety as well. I think that we have to build solutions. Those solutions include building housing that people can afford at a range of incomes, and especially at the 30, 40, and less %. I don't know what more to say. Clearly, we're just giving comments. I am appalled that we don't see folks as part of our community. I think the Pine Street will be positioned to address bringing solutions into the community. I'm also a facility manager in Fields Corner. I understand the concerns around security and space and land, but giving access to services, to support, I think the most important thing to focus on is it's a shelter, but we're calling it something different. We're talking about permanent supportive housing, permanent and supportive housing. I think we all need that, actually, and the services that all seniors need. So I'm really, I'm proud to stand. I'm also a member of Dorchester Not For Sale. I'm proud to support this project. I am part of this community, and I welcome my neighbors back home into housing that we need.
Thank you. Stephen Eyre, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Steve Ayer. I'm a resident of Victory Road, located a few blocks from the proposed project site here. I just want to offer my strongest possible support of this project. Others have spoken more eloquently than I can about the sort of historic need for housing and for affordable housing, particularly and the sort of critical role that this project will play in addressing those issues. So I won't belabor that here, but I'll just note, as you know, we've heard a lot, you know, on this call and in prior community meetings, you know, concerns about safety and security, and particularly concerns about the safety and security of children. You know, I'm just one voice, but as the father of a 1-year-old, you know, I don't share any of those concerns related to this project for reasons that my neighbors have explained really well on this call. I have a lot of faith in the community builders and in the Pine Street and its operators. And, you know, I think that the introduction of this project makes this a neighborhood that I'm even happier to be raising a young child in. I'm, you know, happy that a project like this will be across the street from the Murphy School when she starts school there. And I'm very excited about the improvements to the site that are going to be made here, that are going to directly affect my life and the life of, you know, the rest of the residents of this neighborhood. So I will leave it there, but again, I'm strongly in support of this project.
Thank you. Charles Gucari, you can unmute. Yep, I can hear you.
Hey, I'm definitely in support of this project. You know, I was homeless 13 years ago. And, I got help through the Veterans Center down in downtown Crossing. You know, they're good. You know, and it's an organization that was grateful that I found it. You know, I was able to get a voucher through the VA, but when I got that voucher, I ended up with a slumlord, and I ended up fighting. We ended up fighting for this property. He was in bankruptcy. You know, that fight was tough. You know, and I'm 65 now, and I fought for this property about 7 years ago. And it's on Waldeck Street in Fields Corner. You know, it's on re-renovation. It's got a nonprofit now that owns it. But my thing is, a person shouldn't have to fight with a slumlord to have a decent place to live. That's what I had to go through. I had to go through hell because I'm 30%. I'm at 30%. My income's really low because I live on SSDI and stuff like that, a little bit of VA benefits. But, you know, I shouldn't have had to fight with stuff like that. You know? Thank God that slumlord, we got rid of him. Tenants now own the building through a nonprofit, and it's great. But I had to fight. And I'm fighting for these people too. 99, and it's right there. Everything's there for them. They get a security. They get, oh my God. This project seems great. The neighborhood, I think this will be a benefit for the neighborhood. It will help the neighborhood. And trust me, in my heart, I know it's going to be good. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Louis Finfer, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, and thank you to the members of the board. I'm Louis Finfer. I live in Adams Street in Lower Mills. I've lived for 53 years in Dorchester, and I've worked my whole life working for nonprofit community improvement organizations. At one time, we had a halfway house across the street from my own house, so I directly had that experience, and it was fine. The need for affordable housing, it's hard to describe how huge it is. The waiting lists at the Boston Housing Authority are in the tens of thousands. The waiting lists for either Section 8 or state MRVP subsidies are in the tens of thousands. I know the Pine Street Inn building on Pleasant Street, the number of people have testified about and how well run that is, and other properties that Pine Street has in other parts of the city. And as other people have said, the reputation of Pine Street is very strong, as is the reputation of community builders. It's always hard when you see division, you know, the divisions that people have and brought up in these hearings. But the need is so great And I think this project needs to be improved. And then I think all of us need to support the residents, going forward. So thank you for letting me testify, and thanks for hearing us out from all over Dorchester tonight.
Thank you. Linda Barrows, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. I am completely 100% in support of this project. I live on Hamilton Street. I've been a resident of Dorchester for 35 years. I'm on District 3. I do have a pining project for seniors on my street, less than a block from my house. And I have a halfway house on my street, about a block and a half from my house. The halfway for about 20 years, and now for the last about 4 years, the Pining Project is here. Guess what? They brought value to the community. And guess what? Children are saying good morning to our elderly people. And guess what? We are all getting older day by day, and I hope that all of us will find a place to call home when we get to that age. And I really hope that none of us we will have to experience homelessness in our lifetime. But guess what? I drive every single day by Mass and Cass with my daughter, and she sees that. She almost grew up looking at the people on the streets, at all of the elderly people that have given their lives, many of them veterans that have worked all of their lives, and now they deserve housing. They shouldn't be on the streets. Who are we to be judging the people who are going to live on a Pine-In project that's going to have security, that's going to have on-site services? Who are we to judge? Who are we to say that tomorrow we are not going to be in the same predicament? We have to be very careful when we start really alienating people, because we can be one of those people tomorrow. So today we are lucky, but tomorrow we don't know. So I am total support, and I can tell you that the Pine-In project on my street has been great. Children have been mingling with the elderly people, saying good morning, good evening, and guess what? It's a win-win situation. They are learning from each other. We are not better than anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Carty, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jen Carte, and I'm a resident of Fields Corner. I'm also one of the founders of Dorchester Growing Together, a neighborhood-wide civic association with a pro-housing agenda supporting housing at all price points as an attempt to address the housing crisis faced by the city as a whole. On behalf of our steering committee and our 170 members, we strongly, urgently support this project as a clear green example, economic example, human-scaled example of a way to make an impact on the actual housing crisis for some of our most vulnerable neighbors. Further, I would just highlight that over the last 3 months, a very public fight over this proposal, as well as the 150 Center Street proposal near Shawmut Station, our membership has grown from 98 to over 170 members, and it's in significant part with people looking to find a way to convey to you that there does exist significant support in the community for these types of projects. It just isn't comfortable showing up in the civic process that happens at odd hours and is dominated by some of the same voices again and again in opposition. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. Thank you to the board, and I wish you good luck with your decision.
Thank you. Mary Jo Connolly, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm a resident of Dorchester, a constituent in the districts of Councilor Baker and Senator Collins, and like others, I strongly disagree with their positions on this. I do not work in any industry that has any material stake here. I've come to all of these meetings on my own time because I'm very concerned about what I've heard, the response from the neighborhood and others in opposition to this project. I'm a union member, and I'm taught to view people who may be a little down on their luck as my brothers and sisters, so that's another reason I'm here. So I understand that a lot of people, and me too, are very concerned about how things are changing in Dorchester. It's insane, it's everywhere. So everyone wants to try to do something to protect themselves, but I really honestly wish people would think a little bit more about the threat coming from the very big projects that seek to establish whole new cities like Dorchester Bay City and others, and not just focus on those who have more need. I also am just extremely concerned. I can't say it as well as some other folks have said, but I come from an Irish immigrant family. Grandparents all came to the U.S., not Boston. Wasn't born and raised here, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking, but I've heard a lot of people claim that's what it takes. But I remember, including my father, I'm in my 60s, so, you know, this was 50 years ago, 40 years ago, when there were signs about Irish need not apply for renting or jobs at many, many places. And here I hear this again, the stereotyping about who belongs. This case, it may not be racial or ethnic, it's based on people's history. And as the last speaker, Linda, mentioned, any one of us could have that misfortune. So I just want to express my strong support for this project as part of the solution, not of the problem. Thank you for your time to speak, allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Jordan Longover, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for this hearing. Again, my name is Jordan Longiver. I'm a longtime Dorchester resident, and I just want to speak in the strongest support possible for this project. Of course, there is an extreme need for this kind of project, and I think the plans are just phenomenal. The wraparound services, security, I just think it's fantastic. Many other people have spoken much more eloquently than I have, but I just wanted to add my support. And I also want to thank the BPDA for this format where voicing support for this is not shouted down and or dismissed. So thank you for hearing us.
Thank you. Paul Sullivan, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Secretary Plemus, Director Jameson, Madam Chair, members of the board. Paul Sullivan, City Council at Michael Flaherty. Council wishes to be on record in opposition, echoing the sentiments of Council Baker as well as Senator Nick Collins. Council stands with the community and his colleagues in government in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Brendan Conlon, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Brendan Conlon. I live on Norwood Street, and I am in opposition to this project. It just does not fit the neighborhood. There's no adequate public transportation. It's just not a good fit, in my opinion. You know, Dorchester's taking the brunt of this, and enough's enough. You know, I didn't even know this meeting until tonight, and that's all I have to say is that I'm in opposition. I'm in a direct butter, and you know, we have a problem at the end of the street with homeless people living there, and every time that's brought up, nothing's really been done. There's syringes all around Tinian Beach, whether you're walking the dog or vice versa. I mean, it's just a concern, and no one wants to do anything about it. So if we're going to put this there, then how are we going to handle everything else? And then on top of it, you know, a gun was found there a few weeks ago, and no one wants to address that either. So I'm in complete opposition. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Minor Perez, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez with the Carpenters Union would like to vote record support on the project.
Thank you, Minor. Maria Lyons, I see you have your hand up again, but we only take testimony from an individual once. Russell Weiss Irwin, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. My name is Russell Weiss Irwin. I live a couple blocks away on Coffee Street, and I just want to express my strong support for this project. I think it's a good addition to our neighborhood. I think I've spoken to a lot of my neighbors about it, and you know, first of all, I think the services and the kind of housing that the project would provide are needed things in the city of Boston in general. And I think putting them in a place that's, already like a great tight-knit neighborhood with, close to, a medical clinic and a grocery store and public transportation and parks and all kinds of stuff that people need to have a good life, and that, the same reasons why I love this neighborhood as a place for me and my family, I think are great reasons to put this kind of housing, this kind of project here. So I just want to say really strongly that I am thrilled that, that this has been proposed, and I hope that we can go forward with it. And I hope that the board will vote this evening to approve and support and move forward with, with haste on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to testify about this project? Michael Burns, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Michael Burns, business representative for Local 17 Sheet Metal Workers, and also part of the Boston Building Trades Union. We just want to go on record in support of the project tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Cho, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to express my strong support for this project. I'm a Dorchester resident, and I live on Edwin Street, and I've attended almost, I think, every public meeting connected to this project. And this is really the kind of project that we need to see to address the affordable housing crisis in the city. And I really welcome the opportunity that the Pine Street Inn and TCB have put together to take an underutilized hotel to provide permanent supportive housing to our neighbors, our community members who have faced housing instability, and to support them towards housing stability. Yes, I just want to express my support. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to testify about this project? Please raise your hand. Madam Chair, this concludes the public hearing portion of this item.
Thank you. I think the proponent, if you want, you can have 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal. If there's anything that you want to say regarding any of those themes, that's open to you, or we can go into board questions.
Madam Chair, it's Lindia Downey from Pine Street Inn. Thank you for the opportunity to answer some of the issues that was raised, and thank you to you and the board and to the staff at BPDA for their help thus far in this project. I would like to, with great respect to both Senator Collins and to Councilor Baker, I would like to share a couple of pieces of data. One of our houses does have, many of our houses do in fact have significant 911 calls. 90% of them are medical calls because our population is older. And at night, where we don't have a case manager, we often do use 911 if someone's having chest pains or in any kind of medical distress. So I do want to clear that up. The second thing I would say is that our population, we've committed to making this an elder preference. Our average age right now in our 34 houses that we run throughout Boston, Brookline, and Chelsea, the average age is 57. So we have a population that is older and is aging. If we get Boston Housing Authority vouchers for this project, veterans will get preference 1. So veterans and people that are 62 and older will get the highest priority 1 for this project. I do want to address MassCast for a minute because our team works down there on a regular basis doing outreach, and the city has been collecting some data on MassCast. And the most recent data, which is a little bit dated, is that less than half the people on MassCast on a given day are actually homeless. There's other people down there, but they are not homeless people. They are never going to get on a list for housing in Boston because they don't fit the criteria for being homeless. Of the people that stay on MassCast that are homeless, the estimate is that between 10 or 15% might fit the definition for chronic homelessness, but the average length of time that someone stays on MassCast, 80% of the people are there for less than 3 days. And so I know in people's minds, they connect this as the same thing, but it's really not. It's quite different. The way you get onto the list for the type of supportive housing we do is really, you have to be homeless for a very long period of time, and you have to have a disability, and you have to come off the city's master list where you're screened both from the both via the housing subsidy provider and the developer. So thank you for that opportunity, and I very much appreciate the chance to be here tonight.
Great, thank you so much. So we can go to board questions. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
I guess I have a comment. I'm very moved by the comments that individuals who are supportive of this project have made. And I also understand how our elected officials who've spoken out against this are representing the interests of folks who live in that neighborhood. But I'm reminded of the fact that this coming weekend is Mother's Day. And I've never met a mother who imagined that her daughter or son would grow up to be homeless. And I think that the project that is before us represents the kind of public compassion that those of us who occupy civic positions within the city have to express on behalf of individuals who are members of our families and our friends and people we've worked with, students I've taught, who don't have permanent housing and who sometimes need the kind of support that the proponents here are putting forward. And so as much as I recognize that there has been some very vocal community opposition expressed to this project, it's quite clear that there's great community support to address the issues which go beyond this individual neighborhood and really affect the entire city and the region, and that we all have a responsibility to step forward and to support our neighbors and family members who find themselves in this situation and who are trying to access the kind of supports that the proponents in this case have put forward. So I, for one, find it easy to support this proposal that's before us.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Linsmark. So I just have one question. Since you've done this, you know, in other areas and other neighborhoods, I guess what is the how does that community, how does the new community integrate with the existing community? Like, how do you how have you been successful in getting that fit right? I mean, we already, I want these people to feel a part of the community. Yeah. So I don't know if there's stuff that you do.
I'm happy to try and address that, and I think Andy Waxman can jump in as well. You know, we often have volunteers that come into our houses. Sometimes they're neighbors who live close by. Sometimes they're just people who call us and say, I'd like to volunteer. So for example, we have a group that comes in and does brunch in a couple of our houses once a month on a Sunday. And they cook with the tenants, they help them with some cooking skills, they get to know each other. We have game nights where we ask volunteers to come in and host a game night. Bingo, everybody loves bingo, and we ask people to bring some bingo prizes. It's just a way for people to get used to what's in the neighborhood, and we invite neighbors to be part of any of those game nights. this building will have a lot of community space. We're hoping we can host community meetings so that people can meet people and feel not afraid, because we will have space for any of the neighborhood associations. And, you know, our tenants will shop locally. They don't have cars. They won't be going far afield. They get to know the merchants. They are regulars. You know, with property in Dorchester now where a number of folks shop at the smaller grocery stores because that's what's close by, right? And so they become really very well acquainted often with the merchants because of that. So we use a variety of ideas, and we are open to more ideas from people in the neighborhood as well.
I'll just also briefly add, you know, we, as I said in the earlier presentation, we did an extensive outreach and community process ahead of the official Article 80 process. And so demonstrating that even though we got a lot of opposition, again, it was great to hear so much support tonight, but, you know, we're committed to continuing that kind of ongoing dialogue afterwards. So, you know, people came up to us afterwards, how do we get in contact with you? There's some housing near where I live, but I try to call them and I can't get in touch with them. And so, you know, certainly at least answering the phone, but way more than that. And, you know, having open houses, going to the existing community meetings that are held now. So if there are, you know, things aren't going to be 100% perfect. We're not saying they will be, but it is that ongoing dialogue. And if people have specific concerns or whatever issue is going on to try to address, that will be, in addition to all the things that Lindy had talked about, but just really continuing to be in communication and dialogue and meeting with the residents is important. And I guess the last thing I'll just say is that I live in Jamaica Plain, about 2 blocks from a Pine Street Inn building myself, so not trying to do anything that not also doing in my own neighborhood. And then with Pine Street Inn professionally, 4 blocks from where I live, we're in construction on 140 similar apartments. So you know, I vote where the Pine Street Inn. I didn't even know I was voting in a Pine Street Inn building. I just before, you know, and then learned that it was a Pine Street building. So I also can relate to what other folks have said. Is it's well run and you don't even know what it is often until you have an opportunity to find out for whatever reason.
Great, thank you. That's very, very helpful, and yeah, it is my hope that you know, yourself and the staff there will be a helpful conduit to make the connections, because I think there's a lot of great connections that can be made. So, any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I have a couple. I have a comment, question, and a suggestion. My comment reminds me of something similar that happened down where when Work Inc. relocated from North Quincy to where they are on Freeport Street. And I remember there was a lot of concerns because of that population, and they didn't know it. It was the unknown. So people immediately go to a dark place or whatever. My suggestion is BC High, which, as you know, it's right down the street, on the same street. They have a mandatory program where their students have to volunteer. They have to be involved in some volunteer effort, and you could probably tap into that. My question is, there's a lot of 55-plus communities. It's mandatory. You can't be under 55 and live in certain communities. They're private, of course. It's condo association rules. If the average age is 57 and you're going to target 62-plus veterans, disabilities, would you be up to saying, listen, we're going to make this a 55-plus building? I think that would quell a lot of fears or concerns that some neighbors have. You know, just it's a question.
Yeah, I'm going to let Andy answer it because it's probably more technical than I can answer.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I'll let Andy take that one. Yeah.
Because of the subsidies that are needed to make this work, there's, you know, various rules about the owner program and this program and that program, and so they have different definitions of how you're allowed to have senior buildings with. So a senior preference is one of the options for that. There really isn't an option for a 55 plus.
Yep, I understand.
And let me just say, I have 2 sons who are at BC High, so I very support. And I believe Lindy spoke at BC High not too long ago to the students. So that is a great idea and something that I would certainly encourage and work towards as well.
Okay, great. Any additional questions or comments? Karen? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lansberg?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. So we are on to item number 25. We have an informational presentation regarding the Commonwealth Compact with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion in development. Louis.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, esteemed members of the board, Secretary Paul Emis, and Director Jemison. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. For the record, I'm Louis Frias II, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at the BPDA. I use the he series of pronouns, and I'm here to speak on the Commonwealth Development Compact. No vote is required for this. On Monday, May 8th, Director Jemison signed the Commonwealth Development Compact on behalf of Mayor Wu and the City of Boston. We are joined in this compact by the cities of Cambridge, Somerville, Salem, and Lynn. The commitments of the compact are in alignment with our current diversity, equity, and inclusion policies regarding public land dispositions and private development. The compact is an initiative created by the Civic Action Project and supported by the Boston Society of Architecture and the Builders of Color Coalition. It seeks to broaden access and participation in the economic and social benefits of real estate development with a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The pilot program of the Commonwealth Development Model includes the following key elements of the compact. 1, for the development or other disposition of municipal-owned properties, use its best efforts to require that a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan shall comprise 25% of the comparative evaluation of each proposal submitted. 2, request that all projects requiring a special permit, variance, or other zoning relief within thresholds to be determined by the individual municipalities include a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan disclosure. 3, during discussions with developers and other stakeholders, public officials, and city agencies, actively promote the city's interest in diversity, equity, and inclusion by explicitly including DEI-related community benefits in the list of priorities that municipalities expect to be addressed in developers' proposals. And 4th, report the findings and experiences of implementing these policies and share feedback with the municipalities and compact staff. As previously mentioned, these key elements are largely based on the BPDA's DEI requirements for public land dispositions and private development. The compact is an extension of the BPDA's ongoing work and strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the real estate development industry. In 2018, all requests for proposals for the redevelopment of BPDA-owned land required a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan to be part of the submission process. These plans have helped us to understand the degree of equitable and inclusive economic participation of people of color, women, and minority and women-owned business enterprises within various aspects of each project. In 2020, the BPDA began evaluating these DEI plans within the RFP submissions as 25% of the evaluative criteria. To date, the BPDA has released at least 23 RFPs and designated 13 development projects. And as of August 2022, the BPDA has requested projects undergoing Article 80B, 80C, or 80D review, but not including IMP amendments pursuant of 80D9, to include a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan disclosure. These disclosures also focus on measuring economic participation, management, and employment of people of color, women, and certified minority and women-owned business enterprises within each project. At this time, the disclosures are for informational purposes and will not be used as part of the evaluation in the Article 80 review process. To date, we have received over 26 such disclosures. The Commonwealth Development Compact presents us with an opportunity to join a learning community of municipalities invested in increasing equitable access and participation in the economic and social benefits of the real estate development field. We are very excited to continue engaging with partner municipalities to expand our impact on the economic development of underrepresented people in this space. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the work of Scott Greenhall, Nupur Manani, Brian Glasscock, Ruben Cantor, Kevin Crossley, and others who have played a huge role in shaping the Commonwealth Compact throughout its development and continue to support the initiative. This completes my informational presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, well, this is a great presentation. Thank you for the update. We are excited that we are, part of the compact. So great work, and welcome to the BPDA if we haven't said so yet.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so item number 26, request authorization to submit applications to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, MassWorks Infrastructure Program, in support of various projects in the city of Boston. Enter into a grant agreement with respective development entities proponents of said projects for the use of funds from the MassWorks Infrastructure Program, and execute any other documents and agreements deemed necessary and appropriate in connection with the application process and the administration of funds awarded from the MassWorks Infrastructure Program with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the City of Boston. Ty?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Jemison. For the record, Ty Lim, BPDA Senior Development Finance Manager. The Community One Stop for Growth is a single application portal and collaborative review process of the community development grant programs that make targeted investment. For FY24 round, 12 programs will be administered through the Community One Stop for Growth, including the MassWorks Infrastructure Program through the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. The MassWorks Infrastructure Program is a competitive grant program that provides the largest and most flexible source of capital funds to municipalities and other eligible public entities, primarily for public infrastructure projects that support and accelerate housing production, spur private development, and create jobs throughout the Commonwealth. MassWorks program is authorized under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 23A, Section 63. The program places particular emphasis on the production of multifamily housing in appropriately located walkable mixed-use districts that result in direct and immediate job creation and support economic development in weak or distressed areas. After receiving interest from development community and recommendations from other city departments, the BPDA will apply through the Community One Stop for Growth for MassWorks grants based on potential public benefits and positive impacts on the community, as well as readiness to proceed. This is a competitive process and projects are not guaranteed to be awarded funds. At this time, I am pleased to inform you of 6 projects that the BPDA is in support of applying upon your approval. They are 135 Dudley Street and Nubian Garage projects, both in Nubian Square in Roxbury, 500 Talbot Street project and Garrison Trotter Phase 4 in Dorchester, Mildred Haley Phase 2 in Jamaica Plain, and finally, Olmsted Village Infrastructure Project in Mattapan. The details of the projects, budgets, and work scopes are included in your board memo. Thank you for your time.
Great, thanks, Ty. Any questions or comments from the board? Good stuff, hearing and seeing none. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Call for a vote, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 27, request authorization to approve the disbursement of a total of $100,000 in varying amounts to 8 community organizations in the Fenway neighborhood. The funds will be dispersed from the Fenway Park Demonstration Project Community Benefits, maintained by the BRA, from contributions made by the Red Sox to be dedicated to the beautification of the Fenway neighborhood. Mark.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Before you tonight to request a disbursement of, as mentioned, $100,000 from the Fenway Park Demonstration Project. The BPDA board approved the Fenway Park Demonstration Project back in 2013, granting, among other things, easement rights on Jersey Street on Red Sox game days. That included a $1 million 10-year contribution. This funding round, we've received 11 applications. And the review committee has recommended a total of 8 applicants be funded in varying amounts, as you see in reflecting the board memo in front of you. With that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Call for a vote, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 28, personnel. I think Secretary Polhemus, you're presenting this.
I am. Thank you very much. We have one item for your consideration with details in the package, and it's for one out-of-state travel request. That's all we have tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. And 29, contractual. I need a motion to pay our bills.
I move that we pay our bills.
Second.
Okay. Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Please pay the bills. And finally, item number 30, director's update. Director Jemison, the floor is yours.
Good evening, members of the board and Chair. Thank you very much for your hard work tonight, as always. Just to quickly summarize, tonight's board meeting, we approved 2 new development projects, 181 residential units, 118 income restricted units. The total developer's cost estimate was $95 million, and the projects represent approximately 200,000 square feet. When constructed, 182 tradespeople will be put to work and create 63 direct jobs. Tonight's work was very much focused on not just 900 Morrissey, but a series of plan and other actions, which I'll summarize. But before I do that, I did want to highlight a couple of key things. So I want to offer condolences to the family and friends of our zoning commissioner, Jane Brayton. Jane was a member and vice chair of the Boston Zoning Commission for over 20 years, and she passed away suddenly 3 weeks ago. She was appointed by Mayor Tom Menino in 2001 to represent the Blackstone Franklin Square Neighborhood Association. Over her tenure, she helped to transform the city's skyline through her votes, institutional campuses and neighborhood development worldwide through votes that she took. She was instrumental in the approvals of Winthrop Square, Government Center Garage, and the entire South Boston waterfront, as well as work on Northeastern, Harvard, Boston University, and Boston College, to name a few. Her knowledge of zoning helped to rezone literally half the city, including South Boston, Dorchester, Fenway, Rosendale, and Hyde Park, as well as helping to implement nation-leading reforms in coastal resiliency. Her influence on approval of tens of thousands of housing units benefited millions and created billions of square feet of commercial development across the city. It's a testament to the love she had for all neighborhoods and her goal to make the city better. She will be sorely missed. So thank you and offering our condolences to her family. Another couple of specific personal notes I wanted to offer. As Jeff Hampton noted earlier in tonight's testimony, Brian Glasscock will be retiring from the BPDA at the end of this month. I want to sincerely thank him for his service to the agency over the last 9 years. Prior to working at BPDA, Brian was the commissioner of ISD, leading inspectional services, and also the head of our Conservation Commission and Air Pollution Control Commission. His knowledge of the rules and the details of how development takes place in Boston is really unrivaled, and he's got nearly 40 years of public service under his belt, beginning under Mayor Ray Flynn. From all of us here, Brian, I want to say thank you and good luck. From my personal conversation with Brian, I know he's off to do other critical work in retirement, and we just thank you for your public service and your civic mindedness, Brian. We're also saying goodbye to another key staff person, Chris Bush. He's leaving us. He's been our Assistant Deputy Director for Climate Change and Environmental Planning. He's worked here for more than a decade, beginning his work here in 2012. He was the Executive Secretary for the Boston Conservation Commission. His work has really been distinguished, especially in the area of climate change. Specifically, his work is focused on downtown South Boston harbor plans, the flood overlay district, appeals of the FEMA flood mapping and modeling, along with work in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Industrial Park. Value your contributions, Chris, and thank you for your service in making the city more environmentally resilient. Wish you the very best. Now on to a couple of other notices. I want to make sure that I thank you, board members, for your work, and importantly, thank the staff who spent enormous time engaging with the Mattapan community, an initiative that's been 5 years in the making. It's a major success for the community, and they had an integral role in shaping this plan since 2018. I want to congratulate the staff for their work, seeing this across the finish line. Prioritizes reinvestment in Mattapan Square, creates new zoning changes that will allow for more and different versions of accessory dwelling units, as well as increased connectivity and safety within the Mattapan transit system. Newer and safer connections will also allow Mattapan residents to more easily reach green spaces. An element known as green links in the plan, and get them better access to goods and services, and create what we hope is a 10-minute neighborhood of the future. I want to thank the community for showing up so many times and voicing their opinions, and looking forward to implementing this plan in partnership with them. About 900 Morrissey, I wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the proponent and to the community that will be working together to make this project and that neighborhood a success. The project is going to create 99 new income-restricted homes for people formerly experiencing homelessness, with a preference to senior citizens. The project is consistent with the goal of providing affordable housing for Bostonians, supporting mixed-income communities, and increasing access to opportunity through the project's supportive services. I know this project has evoked strong feelings, and I acknowledge that these decisions are difficult, but I want to stress the importance of having permanent supportive housing throughout the city of Boston and in every neighborhood. It is the answer to homelessness, and I know it's difficult. I know that there's fear involved in decisions like this, but I think you have one of the nation's leading providers involved in this work, and both in the testimony from the board and from testimony of citizens tonight, I think you're hearing that people who have had experience of working with Pine Street know what they can do. The proponent, after community input, reduced the number of units in the project, and also agreed to adopt a senior preference, which is going to be recorded at the advocacy of some of the electeds, so that 62 plus as a preference is going to be something that's going to run with the land. BPDA planning staff worked significantly on the projects along with development review staff to convene the conversations that led to those changes. And I want to say thank you to all of them for the hard work and to that community for welcoming this new development. Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about the compact. You heard from one of our new team members, Luis, our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, who described the Commonwealth Compact. I had a chance to sign earlier this week. I had a chance to represent the Wu administration with other mayors. Mayor Wu could not attend. I attended on her behalf and signed on to a commitment to the things that Luis described, I think, so well. It aligns very much with our current DEI policies. You, as the board, and the staff of this agency have been in the forefront of adopting these approaches, and I think that was recognized at the Compact event. I want to thank agency leaders who've been implementing this, like Rebecca Hansen and Devin Quirk and others who launched this through the real estate side of our work a few years ago, and I'm excited that it's become part of our work in development review and other parts of the agency's work, such as procurement and the like. Excited about the ongoing work, and hopefully it becomes a standard we become the standard as the initial cohort of communities, and that it inspires other cities to join this effort. And with that, I'd like to again say thank you for your time, attention, focus, and helping us make Boston a little bit grow a little bit more with today's meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director. All right. I now need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Hansberg?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.